Bonjour, my name is Denicia Pomaije and welcome to AM News. In our first story, as President-elect John Dramani Mahama prepares to take office, residents of the Volta region are calling on him to appoint competent individuals to key positions in his administration. While they believe that the lessons learned from his previous tenure, Mr. Mahama has the opportunity to reset the nation and deliver on his campaign promises. There's more in the following report by Ivy Setoji.
Residents in the Volta region have high expectations of the President-elect John Dramani Mahama. They believe his past experience as president can serve as a foundation for bold decisions, especially in selecting individuals who are committed to nation building.
Talking about putting the right people in the right places, I strongly believe that His Excellency the President and his team have enough experience to do this. For having been a president for more than 4 years and having been a vice president also for a long period has given him a lot of experiences. And also, perhaps I can humbly say that he also knows those mistakes which he needs to correct in this new administration. So that is clear. But having worked in a multinational industry for a long time, what I believe strongly is let us be looking for people who have the insight, not only the experience, but some of the experiences might not be useful, but the insight into the job might be very, very, very important.
Caroline Ahokonu also shared similar sentiments.
I believe every leader must be very firm when it comes to handling their team. Should be ready to fire any incompetence. He's ready to look in the eyes of even his best man to say, you have failed the nation, so you are fired. The firmness to fire is what we are also looking for.
Another resident, Alex Dachumo, stressed the importance of holding the outgoing government accountable for its actions, suggesting this could serve as a deterrent for future administrations.
We need the incoming government to hold this administration accountable for all their actions over the past 8 years. Because we are adamant. Adam Mills made a mistake, but we don't want this current government to turn a blind eye on the just blatant, naked robbery that has occurred over the last 8 years. And once they are held accountable, we know any other government that comes behind. Change the Constitution. That's the first thing they need to focus on. The Constitution needs to be, reviewed. And any loopholes that they took advantage of definitely needs to be closed, and make sure no one moving forward gets that opportunity to come in here, make the citizens of this country feel like a lesser, well, we have a class system.
Pluche Kudomo also spoke on other issues concerning development in the Volta region.
Very important one I think we should do is to be able to create jobs here. I spoke about getting the waters connected and introducing finger links into them to ensure that the economy is revamped. The entire areas you see here, from Sugakofe to Anglong, Vietula, and all areas, are fishing communities. The waters are drying up. There's the need for us to do some engineering work, opening the seawater and then the Volta River into these rivulets so that they become rivers which people can fish in. And they also provide avenues for agriculture in terms of farming.
Ivy Setoji, Sugakope.
And scores of caterers under the school feeding program on Monday pitched camp at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, demanding payment of their two-term arrears for the 2023-2024 academic year. Well, the caterers told Joy News all engagement with government is not yielding any results as they are under pressure from their creditors. Prince Kwame Kuduga was with the caterers who marched to the Controller and Accountant General's Department and has filed the following report.
The caterers, numbering over 100 who cook for basic schools across the country, gathered at the premises of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to demand payment of 2-term arrears owed them.
Without the money, we are not going because our creditors are chasing us, police are chasing us. We cannot even sleep our house because of the items that we borrow from the suppliers. So that's the reason why we're here. Can you imagine? The greater part of here are single parents, and they use their own money. You see, the secondary school government give them the food items, but the school feedings they buy their own things. That is the pre-finance. And could you imagine a single parent has managed to cook for school children a whole year, and we are not paying? Massa. It's not easy.
The group then marched to the office of the Controller and Accountant General, where the Controller General went into a closed-door meeting with the leadership of the group. After the meeting, Head of Public Relations at the Controller and Accountant General's office, Cephas Dosu, assured the money will be paid by Tuesday, the 31st of December.
Of the service providers.
The leadership of the association after the meeting expressed confidence in the assurance by the Controller and Accountant General. They were, however, quick to add they will continue their protests until they receive their money. Nana Sechiamo is the president of the association.
After talking to us, he did a follow-up call to find out how far the ministry and the gifts has reached, and I think they confirmed from the ministry, from the deputy minister, he confirmed that by the close of tomorrow we'll receive our money. So that has given us the assurance that work is still ongoing, and we have the trust in the controller that everything will be fine by tomorrow.
Meanwhile, some of the members say they have no faith in the promises.
It's not true. They've lied to us severally. This is the first time. We've been in this thing for almost 7 years. There's not even one day I'm going to buy willingly. They be allowed to be like this. Talk and talk and talk and curse before they bring it. So what they are saying is a lie. They just want us to go to wherever we are coming from so that they will have time to rest.
The school feeding caterers have gone back to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, insisting they are not moving until their monies are disbursed. Prince Kwame Kudaga's report for Joy News. Gender, Children and Social Protection, insisting they are not moving until their monies are disbursed. Prince Kwame Kudaga's report for Joy News.
And moving on, WASSCE Member of Parliament-elect Dr. Godfrey Seidu Jasau has stated that his primary focus will be to address the district's deplorable infrastructure. Dr. Jasau, who serves as the Deputy Ranking Member of the Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee in Parliament, highlighted roads and agriculture as key areas of concern. He emphasized that improving these sectors, which form the backbone of the local economy, could significantly transform the lives of the people. More from Rafiq Salam.
The Deputy Ranking Member in Parliament in charge of Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs, Dr. Godfrey Seidu Jasau, had an overwhelming endorsement from the WASSCE electorates, winning over 62% of the votes. He polled 20,402 votes to defeat WASSCE District Chief Executive and parliamentary candidate of the MPP, Dr. Ewura Suleiman Kandie Mahama, who polled 11,816. Dr. Godfrey Seidu Jasau averred that he went into the election confident due to the sea of development projects that he has brought to the people, coupled with his effective representation of them in Parliament.
My record in the first year as a first-time MP, they saw the duties I discharged, how I represented the WASSCE effectively in the Parliament of Ghana, private members' bills that I sponsored, representing the people in other lawmaking facets, and many other contributions, including the kind of developments that I facilitated in the areas of health, supporting health facilities, getting people into educations of higher learning, and so on and so forth, were all evidence that are used in reminding the people for the need to change. Plus, the wider environment of Ghana, what everybody was going through, the hardships, the evidence of corruption by the government, the current government, and so on and so forth, were enough message for the people to vote for change.
He noted that his other luck in the contest was his opposite number and colleague lecturer at the University for Development Studies, Dr. Ewura Kande Mahama, who many perceived as arrogant and had lost touch with the people.
To be very frank, I don't think he appreciated the position and opportunity he had, because they were very basic things. The very core mandate of the district chief executive and the assembly were things that he didn't even pay attention to. It was difficult. Most of the communities that we went to didn't even know him to start with, how much more his impact coming to them. So I think he took the whole position for granted. Many people described him as arrogant. Many people describe him with very unsavory words that I cannot repeat. And so I think he didn't appreciate that we had a problem in the community, in the district, that we had to approach. Plus, many of the embarrassments that you yourself witnessed when he was held before Public Accounts Committee, my very MP's common fund utilization, I mean, he would take the letters and keep them, and so on and so forth. There were so many evidences that, plus, I don't think he really had a message. If you follow the campaigns, you realize that most of the campaigns that they ran were not about issues.
His focus now is to build the deployable infrastructure of the WASSCE, considered to be one of the poorest in the region.
The schools are bomb. Furniture for pupils to sit on is a big problem. Now, these are pressing things that we will need to address immediately. Healthcare delivery is a huge challenge still, because most of the health facilities don't even have hospital beds. How much more? In fact, there are some of them that don't even have thermometer to test patients' temperatures and so on and so forth. These are very basic but fundamental to the survival of these communities. Plus agriculture. You see the way inputs were distributed in the last regime, in the last few years. So access to input cost has been a problem. And you see that in our manifesto, President Mahama has proposed the Agricultural for Economic Transformation program, where he proposes setting up farmer services centers and so on and so forth. So if you look at these, if we are going to implement them within the first quarter of next year, that's 2025, be rest assured that we'll begin to get the farmers to breathe a sigh of relief. And these rural communities, that's their major occupation. So if you can handle and tackle the issues of education, the issues of health, and the issue of agriculture, that hinges on their livelihoods, then we'll begin to make the impact. I'm sure that we can be consistent with these efforts. I'm sure in the next few years we'll begin to record results that are positive for transforming the people's livelihoods.
Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam.
Let's stay a while longer on election-related stories, where the Member of Parliament for WASSCE constituency, Muntaka Mubarak, has urged the Ashanti regional executives of the NDC to document the various strategies adopted for the 2024 elections. For the first time, the NDC garnered nearly 700,000 votes from the region. The MP believes that sustaining these strategies could secure victory in future elections. Nana Aljuma attended a victory party for the NDC constituencies in the Kumasi metropolis and filed this report.
According to the collated results from the Ashanti region, the president-elect, John Dramani Mahama, attained over 697,000 votes in the Ashanti region. It goes in history as one of the party's best performances in the region, which is considered a stronghold of the opponent, NPP. In the constituencies within the greater Kumasi metropolis, the NDC made significant electoral gains. Aswanse MP Muntaka Mubarak believes the strategies adopted for the victory should be documented for future reference.
That we have to put a lot of strategy, a lot of work. Let's document it. The last time in 2008, we didn't document it. And along the line, some of them, the ideas just got lost. So I was reminding my colleagues, the concerned executives, that let's document it. You see the zoning, because I've been complaining, if you remember, for the past 2 elections, Asante is too unwieldy. Let's break it up. You see, the breaking it up has yielded a better result. So let's see how we can strengthen the zoning to make sure that this thing comes to stay, so that our performance next time will even be better than what we've done.
The 11 constituencies in the Kumasi metropolis, which formed the Zone 2 of the NDC campaign, raked in over 190,000 votes. With the gains, the MP believes there is need for Ashanti region to be honored with development.
In fact, Kumasi Metro alone gave us almost 190,000 votes, which is more than, with a greater respect, some whole region. So when you don't have this at the back of your mind, and then you see it as a cake that you are going to share, the tendency to look at the seat and disadvantage Asante region is very, very high. So I was reminding us to know that we did well, and I'm reminding the Zone 2 to know that they did very well, because our numbers appreciated from the 2020, and for the first time we've crossed the 700,000 votes. It has never happened since 1992, and this is something that is commendable. And I added that to whom much is given, obviously much is expected.
The Zone 2 constituencies of the NDC held a party to celebrate the victory. Coordinator for the zone, Kojo Bonsu, expressed excitement at the performance of the party, emphasizing the need to sustain the gains.
We are prepared, because if we develop Ashanti, we get better votes. The little we did years back, that was what brought to bear. So it's an obvious thing. So please don't worry. We're going to do well. We're going to develop the region and get better votes.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ochima, Kumasi.
And then the news, Insura FM, a leading Akan radio station under the multimedia group, has touched the lives of vulnerable children in 24 orphanages and care homes across the Ashanti region. The 2024 Insura Abodo charity event raised 230,000 cedis from the compassionate hearts of listeners to support underprivileged individuals and institutions. The orphanages shared a total of 170,000 cedis, while the remaining funds will be invested in educational scholarships of needy students. Here's a report by Clinton Yebwa.
Go take us to town, buy us.
The bright smiles and jubilations at the premises of Insura FM were the soothing reaction of a promised positive for children living in care homes. The initiative, dubbed Insura Abodo, is part of Insura FM's annual commitment to social responsibility and is designed to empower and uplift the less fortunate within the Ashanti region. The event held during the Christmas season highlights dedication to making the holiday season meaningful for the underprivileged, with the distribution of food items, clothing, and the cash amount. For the caretakers of local orphanages, the timely donations from Insura FM provide essential support, providing immediate relief amidst the current economic challenges. The best joyful reactions, indicating the intervention will cushion and support the organizations.
Orphanage home and a buyer. Sans a baby a shapano, any buafo. National mammy to me the account at my bomb of Frana on Papa no Mammy Frimu. Sabe Buko and the Mammy, I do not bodam. Mammy, I'm a design now, but Mamma so was them. I'm a son connect at dear Shronkwa. That's a media today, Frisro, Emma Insura FM, Adumu TV, said you must be and Shabodo. I want to go and show my name.
She says she is from the Offenso Orphanage home and very thankful and grateful to Insura FM for the kind gesture. According to her, she's joyous that though the orphanage home is in a secluded area, almost out of touch, but Insura FM has been able to locate them and added them to this glorious intervention.
So 7,000 Ghana cedis.
Man, no man 90 million. That's it. It was a Insura Abodo no economy. Abuafo na omo boy ni nyina nyame hira wo mo de nyame mafa omo so ayama ye no ye ne age de omo ayama na abro ye so tie de da ya se be ka se do mase
She says she's very satisfied with the intervention. She's very, very thankful also for the kind gesture from Insura FM. She says last year the orphanage home received 7,000 Ghana cedis, but this year the amount has been topped up to 9,000 Ghana cedis, and that is overwhelming to them. That is extremely a very thankful gesture for them. Nana, yes, we will be big.
Mama Radin Slamu, Radin Pedamu, Radin Kamu, the Bayo, since we are left their boy a drum, oh yes, in time.
Programs manager at Insura FM, Benjamin Okran, says expectations of the year's event have been met.
Raising funds from your audiences to support orphanage is not an easy task. But, I mean, it tells you how strong the Insura brand is. People have really voluntarily supported us and has made this event very successful. So for me, it's one of the best so far.
The host of the Obra show on Insura FM, Mama Efi Amano, who was instrumental in the event organization, appreciated the benevolent outfits and individuals for their consistent support of the Insura Abudu project.
And then whatever we want to give to society, we've been able to achieve it. So that's my greatest joy. When you give, the Lord will give back to you. And when the Lord gives back, it's not just one, it's multiple.
I have been reporting from the premises of Insura FM, Love FM. My name is Clinton Yeboah for Joy News.
And to all those who supported this good cause, God bless you. Well, that's it for AM News, but it certainly isn't the end of the show, right? Because right after this, we have the news review. We'll be joined by Dr. Wisdom Dugbe. He's a financial analyst. Gideon Tete. He's a Greater Accra Regional Director for Conflict Resolution for the NDC. And Dennis Apialabi Ampofo. He's a member of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Education. They'll be joining us for the news review. Well, that's it for AM News. My name is Denise Yapomaide. Have a lovely day.
Well, across Ghana's 16 regions around the world, you're watching me, Sweetie Abochi, live on the AM show. And this is a news review segment. This morning, I've been joined by three gentlemen to help us review the newspapers. Although we don't actually have newspapers, we'll be going to the online portals this morning. But again, I want to congratulate everyone watching us this morning. It's the last day of the year. You made it through. Congratulations. Right, so let me quickly introduce my guests to you. Starting via Zoom, we have Wisdom Dogbe joining us. Wisdom is a financial analyst. Good morning, Wisdom. Okay, while we try and connect with Wisdom, let me introduce my guest in the studio with me. We have Gideon Tete. He is Greater Accra Regional Director for Conflict Resolution from the NDC. We also have Dennis Apialabi Ampofo. He's a member of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Education. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I do want to circle back to Wisdom and see if we can connect with him. Wisdom, are you with us? Good morning.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning. Great. So usually we'll give our guests 2 minutes to walk us through any topical issue on their minds they want to reflect on. But because you're in studio with me, let me go over to Zoom and then I'll come back to you. Wisdom, let's get straight into your 2 minutes take for us this morning.
Sure thing. So this morning I'm just thinking about, the mandate the good people of Ghana have given to His Excellency President-elect John Mahama, and expectations are high. And the first news item on your show this morning was about the president appointing competent individuals to key positions. And I'm very certain the president will surround himself with the right experts to execute for Ghanaians. It's going to be hard work, to get our economy back on track, but I have no doubt the team will execute. I'm particularly keen on what we do with the energy sector. It is in distress, as we all know. So those who will be appointed to the sector, from the minister to the CEOs and even directors, their work will be cut for them to address and improve, our energy generation and distribution. I think that it might make sense, really, for a company like VRA to be led by a finance expert, not an engineer this time, because the challenges they face at VRA, those are mainly funding challenges. We will need a finance, strategic leader who will bring in the needed funding to modernize, our single cycle thermal plants, make them combined cycle to about double the energy produced, using the same amount of fuel and reduce greenhouse emissions in the process. That will also reduce the VRA's dependency on the national budget to give some fiscal space in the sector. There is the argument that VRA is last to be paid in the price waterfall mechanism, so that discourages infrastructure investment by the VRA. We can solve that, sweetie, by renegotiating the contracts with the IPPs, stop the IPPs from trying to negotiate power deals with Togo and Benin, and keep that exclusively to VRA. When you do that, VRA will no longer look mismanaged. Look, the challenges of VRA are financial challenges caused mainly by the cost of fuel. And here we are today, we are generating enough steam from the thermal plants, enough to serve as free fuel to generate 50 to 100% more energy. And I believe the JM administration will take advantage of some of these low-hanging fruits. And my intel shows that we can double or multiply our energy output within 2 to 3 years for a quick win for the nation. We should also keep all VRA subsidiaries under VRA, but make them independent so they can raise their own funding and also to increase operational efficiencies, for the individual subsidiaries and also for the parent company as well. Then finally, we need to improve employee morale, because I heard that due to several political recruitments at VRA, a lot of qualified staff have been overlooked for political recruitments. Even some of the new hires I heard do not have offices or desks to use. And we also need to develop the political will to stop the galamsey operators at the lake and allow the private company who already have the equipment at there's a place called Ametokope to start dredging the lake to secure the banks of the people living there. VRA is a company that must be revamped. It is too critical for the nation, and I have no doubt that the right experts and the right amount of funding, including FDIs, with that we can turn things around and make it an enviable energy company across Africa.
Right. Wisdom, I see the wisdom in what you said about the financial experts heading energy sector. But if you're talking about experts heading the various sectors, wouldn't it augur well for us if we actually let an energy expert head that sector? I mean, because of the policies and all those ambitious plans we have, as you said, the work is already cut out for them. They'll know how to ground it in scientific and technology realities. Would you agree? So
you have a great point. If you're not feeling well, what do? You go see a doctor.
Yeah.
If you have money, you want to build a house, what do? You see a builder. So the current problem that is facing the energy sector is really not about the expertise or the technical expertise to generate power. It's about financial management.
Right.
For instance, I zeroed in on VRA because their main challenge as of now is financial issues. And that's why you need to bring the expert in that area to turn things around for them.
Thank you, Wisdom. Hold for me. Let me get back in the studio. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Mr. Ampofo. What will be your 2 minutes take?
Well, thank you very much. It feels good to be back in the studios after quite a very big chewing.
It's been restful for you, hasn't it?
I'm not going to. It's
been restful for you because you've not had much to do, have you?
I've had a lot to do.
Oh, okay. I thought since you lost the elections, you're not waxing lyrical all over the place.
So I think that for us it feels good and okay to be back to the studio. Ghanaians have spoken. It was a resounding voice, a very loud one that requires that we do a lot of introspection. So for us at the New Patriotic Party, there's a lot of work going back, rebuilding our structures and ensuring a good reform to our party, touching base and correcting some of the flaws that we have. The truth is that in an election, the winner thinks he did everything right, and the loser thinks he did everything wrong. So there's a tendency to think that whatever we did in the election or prior to the election was wrong. It serves as a caution to us as a party to be very careful introspection we do and the kind of analysis we do. We must delve into the issues critically as a party. Ask ourselves the very fundamental questions. Do not blanket the issues. Pick it constituency by constituency, region by region, and ensure that the preparations and the reforms that we're going to propose are one that would have long-lasting firming and strengthening of our party. Okay. Beyond the party lines to going into government 2025, Dr. Baumia mentioned something that we're going to be a very constructive opposition and not an obstructive one, not a destructive one. I can assure the National Democratic Congress that the MPP that we would be a part of in the next 4 years would be very, very constructive. One of the key things is that as part of our being constructive, excuses is something that we are not going to pamper. Bed of excuses is something that the people of this country, having given an overwhelming majority to the NDC, will not pamper.
Is that something that, wouldn't it be disingenuous on your side if you say you're not going to pamper anyone, if you're going to pamper excuses? But I would wager you that this particular year, or this, should I just go back the last 4 years, we have actually pampered some excuses from this administration, have we not?
The truth is that the person who has been voted for knows the presidency very well. He knew the presidency when he made the promises. He knew the presidency when he promised to retrieve $18 billion through oral, which is a good thing for this country, isn't it? He knew the presidency when he promised that the likes of AIS, Ghana International School, SOS Heman are all going to be added, those are private schools, are going to be added to the free senior high school. He promised to eliminate COVID.
It's just, I get
emission
we have
tax,
to make headway.
tax.
Yes.
So for us,
I'm saying that
now
that you're preparing to enter opposition, if your strategy is not to pamper excuses, I'm just saying you should be fair to the incoming administration.
I'm asking you, do we have to pamper excuses?
I asked the questions on here.
The good thing is that it is a rhetorical one, you don't need to answer it. Ghanaians at home.
Right.
At home have a certain...
Land on that point for me.
Ghanaians at home have a very simple assessment of politics and governance. And it is a message to the political class, not just the NDC, not just the MPP, all of us, that once you promise the people that you will eliminate double track in 100 days, you would complete all Agenda 111, you would ensure that your on-cap gets fund, you would build a new stadium in all regions, you build a new university in all new regions.
An example, if I get
and still ensure that you retrieve 18 billion for Ghanaians. You have to.
So you're watching with eagle eye.
We will be doing it with you.
All right, thank
Aren't
you.
you not going to help us?
I mean, let's bring you into the conversation. I don't know if you want to respond to what he's saying, but you have your 2 minutes now.
Sweetie, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our viewers. Indeed, we are happy and glad and thankful to Ghanaians for voting massively for us in Greater Accra for the first time unprecedented under the auspices of Emmanuel Ni Ashimor. We chalked 31 seats, which means that if you are, I can imagine the MPP regional chairman for Greater Accra is only going to manage 3 seats. That will mean that it's going to be hardship for him in Greater Accra. And of course, based on the hard work of our constituents, we have decided we awarded them with motorbikes, freezers, and TVs. On top of it all, Ablekuma South and Okwankwe South are going to Dubai on the 4th of January. We are intentionally taking them to Dubai before the handing over so that the MPP will not tell us that we are taking money from the state coffers. It is money that we gathered for ourselves, raised funds for ourselves, and make sure that our constituents are rewarded massively. And that is what has brought us this far. And now we have chalked 31 seats. You know that today, the mandamus application is going to be heard by a new judge at the High Court.
Yes.
After here, I will take off my dress and wear my legal apparel and be in court just to make sure that indeed our the mandamus application will be heard. Of course, our side will also has been filed, and then we hope for the best. Of course, the Lord loves them. And you see, let me correct what my brother said. You see, we have 10 policies that we said we are going to implement in our first 120 days. All the things that he's saying are not true. The 10 policies, which is already there, we said, first of all, we will nominate our list of cabinet ministers in the first 14 days. Then we also said that we would ensure a leanest and most efficient government in our first 90 days. And then we also indicate that there will be a code of conduct and standards for all government officials, which means that as a government appointee, you would have to live in a certain style, not any lavish or opulent style. Right. We also indicated that we are going to
read
have
out all the 10 policies.
But I just want to state clearly that the things that my brother mentioned are.
But they are parts of the promises, the
but they are not
promises
part of
your.
Yes.
That's clear.
But not part of the
let's get on to myjoyonline.com now and do some stories. I mentioned we don't have newspapers. So the first story I want to tackle: WAEC releases 2024 WASSCE provisional results after delays caused by indebtedness. The story reads, the West African Examination Council has released the provisional results of the 2024 West African Senior High School Certificate Examination. And the delay in releasing the results earlier this year was due to unpaid funds owed by the Ghanaian government to WAEC for services rendered by the council. I don't know if we all have been following. I think the first payment they made was about 20 million. And then I think 25th December, John Kapi announced that they had received 35 billion. It still doesn't, I think there's still more. It was a total about 101 or 15. I'll get a figure in a bit. But so far, you still owe about 60 or 51 million. But the results have been released. And I don't know how you feel about that, Dennis. You were on the education committee of the NPP manifesto. These delays have caused problems for parents, students. In fact, Legon had to admit students without their WASSCE results. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I think that it is unfortunate. I have said that the education sector is a sensitive one that deserves all the attention it can have. It's unfortunate that we have had to deal with the situation of debt at WAEC. What has orchestrated this debt or has caused this debt is the government's decision, bold decision, to ensure that WASSCE and BEC registration does not become a financial impediment to young people trying to write their final exams. So over the years, the Akufo-Addo government has made it a point to make WASSCE registration free, BEC registration free. It comes with its own financial implications.
Is that not why we are in debt?
That's my point. It comes with its own financial obligations. But you see, truly, leadership is a matter of choices. It is a decision to invest in the education of young people. It would come with repercussions. The repercussions is that government will take on debt or will take on more financial responsibility. And government chose, the Bawumia Akufo-Addo government chose the point of ensuring that the cost is eliminated and government bear the challenges and the headache of debt. So this ordinarily was never the government headache to go by from the initial stages when we inherited the government of this republic. But as a matter of choice, we thought it wise and believed that the education of this country is paramount and must be number one, and that should be key. And that is what we did.
So looking back now, would you say that was the best way to tackle it?
If I'm president, I am not. If I'm minister, I'll take the same decision again. Why? Because you see, all across the world, one of the biggest barriers to accessing education is cost. And the moment you eliminate the cost barrier, you are able to ensure that a lot more of young people have access. So if you ask me, between people dropping out of school or not being able to write their final exams, as against this delay that came, they are both not good. The delay is not something that anyone should be happy with. But I would choose this delay over that. That said, it is the responsibility of government to honor its obligations. And that is what government has done. The end of the matter is that the results has been released. What is the kind of results that's been released to? It's also important that we look at. The kind of quality that we are producing is also important. Why is it important? Because now the young girl from Kumpese does not need to think about going to find money for her final registration.
Dennis, you know, there's been a lot of cancellations. Results have been withheld. The performances over the past 3 years or 4 years have seen some decline. It's not been as good as, previous years.
As good as when are you benchmarking?
Hold on, I'll find out.
Because the benchmark I have here, if you look at 2024 current results, the English language 69.52% pass, mathematics 66.86% pass, integrated science 58.77%.
Which years? Which
2024. I'm giving 2024. Then social studies 71.53. In every standard, if you have an average of 69.52% pass in English, I think that is a good work done by our students and our educational community. It may not be 100%, but for a young, growing educational society like our own, If you look at our history, if you look at what we've done, there are times we've fluctuated. Last year's performance was better than this year on the average. I give that true and I agree. But if you benchmark it, I believe that on the average, there's been a huge improvement in our core subjects over the last decade. And that is very important that we underscore.
According to WASSCE data, over the last 10 years, there has been a fluctuating trend in performance with a noticeable decline in mathematics score, while other core subjects like English language, integrated science, social studies have shown variation, some improvement, and sometimes dipping in performance across different years. And I'll get you the actual data in the course of the
No, I have shared that.
Yeah, Gideon.
Yes, sweetie.
But you can't just limit it to 2020.
No,
I'm talking about
from 2021.
Yeah, Gideon, let me get a reflection on that. Then it's past that.
Before I respond to today is, as tradition as a party, we have 31st December Revolution commemoration. And of course, it's going to happen at 8 a.m. at the Nongwa Town Park. The legend flight lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings still lives. Sweetie, you see, I'm surprised that my brother is seeing that. You see, how much did you see WASSCE, the old government owes WASSCE?
About 118 million Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedi.
Yeah, 118.
The financial scandals that we have.
No, but part of that has been cleared. That was the total debt.
But I'm telling you that the reason why they are still owing, they can't pay, is that the financial scandals we have accumulated under the umbrella of Aura is close over $18 million.
18 billion.
Oh, no. 18 billion, that's fine. So $18 billion. Even if it's a million, it is even more than yours. $18 billion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm helping you.
So you can imagine that if we are talking about the $58 million National Caterer Single, that alone can settle that debt that this government owes. That has been the character of the Akufo-Addo government, and that is why they chalked 38%.
All right, thank you. So let me interject, okay?
Yes.
This is important. 2014, there was a low start in terms of the pass rates in percentage. We had 31.28%. 2015, slight improvement, 38.68%. 2016, significant leap, 52.97%. 2017, momentum continues, 59.22%. 2018, a setback, 48.15%. 2019, back on track, 64.18%. 2020, slight growth, 64 to 65. 2021, that was record breaking, 81.70%. And just give me a second, let me find the remaining all the way to 2024. Please go on.
Yes, so Titi, by the time we are done with Aura, over 18 billion, all the debts that this government owes that they have refused to pay, we will use those money to settle them.
All right, thank you.
And so, you see, we must begin to understand that is the reason why Ghanaians rejected this government, giving 38%. You see, 38% is an F. It's not even a D, not a C. You know, 38% means that you have failed. And that is what Ghanaians do to them. And so, Ghanaians must be rest assured. We know that Akufo-Addo government, we've decided to set some, trap for us, but we are not perturbed. We will definitely
let's stick to facts here.
Overcome.
Let's stick to facts here, Gideon. But hold for me. Let me go to. It's okay. Hold on a second. Wisdom. What do you make of the delayed results that have now been released and the debt that is owed WASSCE?
Sorry, I think it was a serious one, right? And I have a different opinion from the comments my brother in the studio, Dennis, made. If I recall correctly, back in early July also, there were concerns about if the government would be able to make its payments of about, I think that time it was about 50 million cedis that was required, to successfully organize the exams and pay some debt. And the government made that payment barely days before the exams. Yet we have millions of dollars to spend on projects that are sole sourced. Some of these projects, you struggle to reconcile the benefits with the real needs of the people. In fact, a friend of mine sent me a very disturbing document recently about, how certain actors in the current administration are colluding to have the finance minister to sign a lucrative contract worth about 1 billion cedis for a certain Takrade Air Force drainage project. This is a huge deal for a drainage. Yet we are struggling to pay about 100 million cedis so our younger ones can get their WASSCE results on time. Are we not playing with the future of our children? If we don't handle some of these things with top priority, so they are telling, we are playing. This should not even have been on the news in the first place. It should have been paid long ago and resolved. If we are serious about prioritizing education and developing a skilled and knowledgeable workforce ready for the global stage. As for the results that are being held or cancelled, I think it's saddening to hear, and I hope that the officials at the exams board, they are taking everything into consideration and not wrongfully cancelling results.
Thank you. Now, let me just add a story to the conversation. School feeding caterers besiege gender ministry over non-payment of arrears. And this is also coming from enjoyonline.com. Scores of caterers under the school feeding program staged a protest at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection yesterday, demanding payment of arrears for 2 academic terms covering 2023 and 2024. And the caterers traveled from various parts of the country, and they claim that despite assurances from the Controller and Accountant General's Department that funds have been disbursed to the ministry, they have not yet received any payments. And they spoke to Joy News correspondent Prince Kwame Kudoga, and the president of the school feeding caterers, Nana Sechiamwa, described the situation as dire and citing that the amount owed them by the government is substantial. We're still in debt, gentlemen, but let's put a pin in this. Let me go to graphic.com, do some stories there before I come to you so we can cover more ground. There's a story here about the president to deliver final message on the state of the nation, yes, on the 3rd of January 2025. President Nana Addo Dankwa will deliver his message on the state of the nation in Parliament on Friday, ahead of the dissolution of the 8th Parliament on January 6th. And the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic will be dissolved on Monday, January 6th. And then I think 2 days after, or the second day, the 9th Parliament will convene at 11 p.m. to elect a speaker and 2 deputy speakers. We're looking forward to who those will be. Any quick reflections on these stories? Dennis, make it brief for me.
So first of all, I think that it is important that my brother Gideon realizes that the promise to the people of this country is to retrieve $18 billion. What that means is that it is enough to finance our budget, such that we may not even necessarily need to tax the good people of this country. And you and I and the people of this country will be holding them onto it. My expectations really is that the 222 million used to build the Bank of Ghana that has been cited as part of the 18 billion will be retrieved. Isn't it a good thing? Why will I be angry with that? It is a good thing. So that people like our young people don't even have to pay for transportation again. The 18 billion is an expectation of this country, but he need not make any mistake. No one is creating any traps for anybody. John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, knows this office more than any of us. He knew the challenges in the office.
What's the agenda here then?
I'm coming.
No. I don't mean any malice. I want to understand where you're coming from, right?
I'm getting
because I could, off the top of my head, I remember the promise of by the end of my tenure, Accra will be the cleanest city. Nobody was actually matching the election results.
What's the election results?
What point are you getting?
I'm trying to let you know that because he did not do that, Ghanaians have voted against him.
Right. And the moment that you are entering opposition, you're vehement. Okay.
No, all I'm saying is that the good people of this country are not ready to take excuse. Someone is setting a trap.
I read a story. This is a news review, right? I read a story about caterers.
No, I'm just correcting something.
Wait. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Let's have a conversation. I read a story about caterers besieging the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection over unpaid debts.
Sweetie.
I also talked about President Akufo-Addo set to deliver his last state of the nation address. Hold on, Dennis. Hold on. Let's calm down.
Oh, I'm enjoying.
I was expecting you to reflect on these 2 stories, particularly because we just spoke about WASSCE and the debts there, and we are talking about caterers under the school feeding program who are also owed some substantial amounts of money. And you go to talk about how the incoming administration must deliver on the mandate or the promises they made about recovering 18 billion. I'm struggling to see the connection, is all I'm saying.
So let me tell you the connection. When he started, you asked him, is he going to respond to some of the things I said? It is only fair that I respond to at least something that he said. And I'm saying that he made an accusation, and it's a huge one, that the MPP outgoing government is setting traps for the NDCs coming. And I'm saying that nobody is setting any trap.
Okay.
No one is interested in that because it is good news for us if they do well.
Okay.
It is good news if they retrieve the 18 billion. But let us not deceive ourselves that nobody can take it away from Mr. Mahama that he knows the office. He knows that debt management is part of the office because when he was leaving, he left school feeding, school uniforms, math sets, examination, a lot of these debts. So he knows and understands it. So these excuses of a creation and architecture of excuses will not suffice going because the young people of this country have huge expectations. And that is where you come in to select some of the things that my government did not do. And I agree with you. That's why my government was voted out.
All right.
That's why they've been voted.
So until they start making these excuses, should we not stick to the issues as...
No, but the excuses have started. He told you that we are setting traps. That is an excuse.
An excuse?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then let's focus on these two.
So now I get the opportunity to respond to the issues. All I'm saying is that when I'm responding, allow me, just like you allow him. But now to the issue of school feeding debt, I am one who's been a strong advocate for school feeding right from my days as NUC's president. And I'll give it to you here, that I believe that it is not just about paying the debts, it's also about improving on the deliverables at the school feeding. And Dakwon Newman spoke, the minister spoke yesterday, and she made it clear that the first tranche that was paid, the first term that was paid, they shouldn't worry. The second and third that they are complaining about that you read is also being processed to be paid to them. But I think that these delays are not good for business people.
What do you know what's causing the delay? Because they said the money, Control and Accountant General said they've actually disbursed the money, but
exactly that is why I think that these.
I'm asking if you know. You're on the.
No, I don't know.
If
I know, if I knew,
okay.
I'd rather.
All right, thank you.
But like
Gideon,
I'm saying, let me
we know we have to do this in time. Gideon.
You see, the conduct of Dennis shows that the MPP, they have not learned. They have not seen the mess they have put Ghanaians into, and so. For Dennis to speak on behalf of MPP means that they have the effrontery to now tell us or dictate to us how we should govern this country. Look, this is the time for the MPP to shut up, quote unquote. Excuse my words, but excuse my French. Really? To keep quiet and focus on their wounds, lick their wounds, and realize that they have put us in this mess, and that is why they got 38%, and that is why we have to test majority, and that is why the MPP in Parliament will be infinitesimal in terms of decision making. Look, sweetie, you and I will not be discussing debts if indeed this government had done the things that they promised to do. Today, we are instead of we as a country thinking of moving forward.
I don't know if we would not be discussing debts. Maybe it's about the magnitude of it. But I think debts.
But the point is that the magnitude. You see, the magnitude. The public debt is already over 700 million. And then we are talking about.
So maybe we are talking about.
Yes. And we are talking about scandals, corruption, stealing, thievery, over $18 billion.
About the caterers.
So you see, so you see. Instead of we as Ghanaians or as a government continuing from a good, platform, we now have to go back and go and retrieve stolen monies. Because you see, governance is a continuum. If indeed this government had done things right, we will not be here talking about that. By this time, all this would have been paid. By this, because obviously, looking at the stealing that has happened, if indeed corruption was zero, right, we would not be talking about small debt that we have to pay.
All right.
And so you see, sweetie, I am only here to tell you that it is now that we are going to be sworn in. I was giving you the 120 our policies for our 120 days, which you didn't want me to finish. And I was trying to say that, look, once we are sworn in, we know that we are not going to have more than 60 ministers. These are the ways to make sure that we manage our funds. And when you don't have money and there's so much debt to pay, you must start tightening your belt. So our first tightening of belt is to make sure that we have the leanest government. Now you see, all because of the mess of these people. Now, apart from that, we are going to make sure that all these nuisance taxes are scrapped off. We will also go to make sure that
we publicized enough.
But sweetie, that is the solution. But that is the solution to all these
problems.
Debts.
Great, I got you.
That's the solution to all these
Let me go to Zoom now. Wisdom Dogwe, maybe you touch on maybe your expectations of the president's final speech, but I don't know what your reflections are. Let's get into your thoughts.
So on the caterer's debt, the first thing I would say is this is the reason why we've been talking about reviewing the free SHS policy. It's a great policy, but it needs to be reviewed, and improved. That's how I look at it. And I think we should decentralize the school feeding program by itself to make it work better for everyone. Now, on the last one, I think our president has presided over a significant, economic downturn and widespread corruption. So I suspect that his last SONA will be characterized by acknowledgement of failures and economic challenges for the most part. Hopefully, he discusses the impact of his difficult economy on the citizens, and he needs to also address the level of corruption in his government. He can at least acknowledge challenges, right? If there's no much appetite, to take full responsibility. You see, I think the president is very keen on what his legacy may be. So I expect him to also adopt quite a defensive tone, justifying past decisions and policies, arguing that they were made in the best interest of the country, despite the outcomes that we all saw. I won't be surprised if we hear about, more blame shifting, blaming external factors, including COVID and the war in Ukraine as the causes of the economic difficulties in the nation. Look, despite the challenges the president is leaving behind, we will hear a bit more about this free SHS policy that we just talked about and other notable items that, they consider as huge achievements. But I hope it will be a SONA that calls for unity and healing and a pledge to cooperate, with the incoming administration to identify and prosecute outgoing corrupt officials.
Thank you, Wisdom. Let's go to City Newsroom now. We don't owe Ghana Airport Company Limited $3 million. That's Magdan Aviation is saying. Private air charter, I believe we all saw the story yesterday. Private air charter service provider Magdan Aviation has refuted reports claiming a $3 million debt to the Ghana Airport Company Limited that allegedly led to the closure of its private jet terminal at Kotoka International Airport. And we know that it's not the first time this is happening. And Magdan Aviation clarified that $2 million of the reported debt is tied to a piece of land purchased from Ghana Airport Company Limited, which is currently under litigation. Let me not go on and on with the story. Just quotes, we do not owe $3 million at the terminal. There are three things we have been in discussion with the Ghana Airports Company. The tunnel is one. We also have a piece of land we acquired from them close to the Action Chapel area for which they demand grant rights. And the bulk of what is supposedly owed them is cut from that. But have been in conversation with them because that land, even though we acquired it from Ghana Airports, is the third party that acquired the same land and got their documentation through the Lands Commission. So it is under litigation. We all know the story. I'll go around and take your quick reflections on this, and we should be wrapping up. Let me start with you, Gideon.
Yes, I'm just surprised that a key financier of the MPP is being chased over debts, but obviously it means that there's a wind of change. Of course, it is good that he has cleared the...
How do you know he's a key financier?
How do I know? Obviously, we know he's a key financier. That's how come they gave him that place. So this one is a known issue. But
if you have facts to show,
but it's a key financier. It is the reason why he was given that place to manage that private airport. Yes. Well, how come you? What did you do to warrant that place? So I'm saying that the bottom line is that he has explained, he has broken down the debts that is being owed. If indeed the land is under litigation, it's just a matter of returning that land to the company, and then whatever debts he has to pay, he must pay. Obviously, it's not just a matter of breaking it down, but it's a matter of making sure that you pay. And so it is good that he has indicated that there's a land, and so that land, once that land is returned, his debt will be reduced. If there are other issues that can be returned, which is not really a matter of cash, he can return those ones, and automatically whatever he has to pay will be small, and then he pays it, and that's it.
All right. I must put out that the comments of our guests are their opinions and not a reflection of what our opinion as Joy News or the Multimedia Group Limited. Dennis?
Yeah, I think that it's quite unfortunate that Gideon will take that position. He's a Ghanaian. I'm not spokesperson for Magdan, but he's a Ghanaian.
Yeah, he doesn't use a Ghanaian.
You don't do this on live TV, on national TV.
He's a key financier. That's something. Why you
I'm saying that let's
Can I?
Dennis.
Gentlemen.
Respectfully.
Proceed.
So I think that it is not fair to the person of Magdan. It's really not fair. And I'm happy that you came in to correct him. He's a Ghanaian, first of all, so you don't tie his business fortunes only to some political climate or political affiliations that you purport without evidence. And that is some smacking of condescending posture that is not good. I'm not surprised that he tells us
I
believe that it is that same posture that makes him thinks he can tell us to shut up when it comes to the running of this country. He thinks that we cannot tell them how to run this country and we should shut up. But I can assure him, we won't shut up. We won't shut up because there's a reason why democracies are founded on multi-party systems. That whereas one party is voted out to go out of office, it has a responsibility as a opposition to provide credible opposition, constructive and not destructive ones, to the good people of this country because they are not saints.
So the Magdan Aviation.
It's very, very important that we clear that. And again, Wisdom on Zoom made some statements, and I think correction is important since it is in the educational space. School feeding programs is not part of the free SHS. It is not. They are two different entities. The school feeding program operates under the Ghana Education Services basic school program. Free senior high school debts or whatever is happening in free senior high school has nothing to do with school feeding. So I beg him, when you have issues, do not obfuscate the matters. Do not bring school feeding to attack free SHS. Let our free SHS rest small. Because school feeding has nothing to do with free SHS. It's very important that Wisdom, from his point of neutrality, gets that. I believe that Magdan's situation is purely a matter of business. And as from someone from the business community, I think that businessmen should be left to do their business without so much of the politicking. If a businessman owes and his creditor is taking actions, it should be treated purely on the business scope. We should not keep doing this to businessmen in this country where we want too many times bring the politics, smear them. If he owes and his creditor has taken an action, it should be settled within the business atmosphere, whether legally or through an arbitration. Whichever way, it must be treated as business. We do not do politics, so much of it, the partisanship of it to it. Because you and I on TV speaking about our political parties. Magdan does not come to TV to speak for MPP or NDC. Guess what? When His Excellency John Mahama was voted, as part of the CEOs who went, Magdan was part. I may have my issues with him, but can't we decouple the politics from some aspect of our country? Must every young person in this country smear everything that happens in this country with some dent of politicization? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Okay. Someone builds a business and we want to sacrifice it on the altar of partisanship. I think it is not fair.
I think when
he owes,
right?
He owes. Or he doesn't owe, whichever it is.
It's business.
We should speak to its business. How many business people in this country do not owe?
Hold on for me. I think when the story broke yesterday, the reactions that were coming in, most of them, it's just an expression of surprise that this man is purportedly a billionaire, owing millions, you see. And I think I even saw Uncle Ben Dochemalo made a comment like that on Facebook, that how does a billionaire get, owe 3 million? Let me go to, hold on, gentlemen, let me go to calm down. Wisdom, what do you make of the Magdan Aviation situation and the Ghana Airport Company shutting down because of 3 million Ghana cedis?
I was also surprised to read a story about, having their private jet terminal shut down. Apparently, it's owing some money, even if it's not at $3 million, which they deny. Look, in this, let me do a little bit politics here to the surprise of my brother Dennis in the studio. Look, in this Akufo-Addo government, both the poor and the ultra-rich are all in debt, and it's unfortunate. One thing, you see, someone mentioned this to me yesterday, that Magdan is a powerful businessman aligned with the current government. And so there could be some political ramifications here. You see, the timing of the terminal shutdown could have political consequences if all that we're hearing about is true. Could it be an action that they took as a signal that there's a change in alliance or internal conflict within the ruling party. Nobody knows that. We can only speculate. That is one way to look at it, or it is purely a business decision by the Ghana Airports Company Limited, just like Dennis wants us to believe. Look, I wonder why they waited until the debt accumulated, if it is indeed true, to that amount before taking action. Would they have taken action if MPP was going to remain in power? Personally, I think these actions should have been taken long ago as precedent for accountability, even for the rich. That is how the authorities should handle debt and financial obligations, even among influential figures in society. So if this was done much earlier, maybe it might have encouraged, stricter enforcement of financial agreements and lead to increased scrutiny of the financial practices of other businesses that are tied to the government.
Okay. The final story I want to do, I know you will have a lot to say. Calm down for me. The final story I want to do is for us to take a look at the full list of those who were honored yesterday. And I'll get to it in a bit. Yes. So let's look at the 2024 National Honors Award. Which one of those who were awarded yesterday surprised you? And what was the highlights for you yesterday? That would be how we are wrapping up. Dennis, let me start with you.
Okay.
Were you surprised? Were you impressed? What was the highlights for you?
Sweetie, one of the nicest things we had this morning, that Wisdom admits that he's doing politics. It's very, very important he admitted that. But Wisdom, it's very important that whilst you admit that you are doing politics and you are not neutral, it's very important that we get to know that this country cannot ground to a halt because we are about to change government. When government is owing WAEC, we are seated here from Gideon and yourself from home, saying that government should pay WAEC. But when someone is owing government and government is going after that person, then you believe that there is some level of politicking with that. And I'm happy we put that to rest.
Well, I guess that's an argument you can make, but
yes.
We have just about 2 minutes.
Yes, so on my highlights, I'll talk about my highlights. Yeah. My highlight is Daddy Lumba's honors. It's very important that Daddy Lumba's flowers were given to him while he's alive. He deserves that truly and duly, as probably one of the greatest who's walked the space of music. And then Dr. Richard Boadu from Get Fund. The work Get Fund has done, from moving scholarships of 333 to over 5,000 from projects dotted around the country which were uncompleted, to the emergency projects, to our STEM schools, to some of the amazing things that they've done, and the groundbreaking edifice of the headquarters that is being built at Get Fund. I truly expected that the Get Fund boss, Dr. Richard Boadu, is honored, and I was happy to see that happen. Aside that, Daddy Lumba's own was one incredible one for me personally.
Okay, great.
That I saw as a highlight from this.
All right, Gideon.
Oh, did he?
Highlights? I wanted to read out the full list, but we don't have enough time, so make it brief for me.
Well, what surprised me was...
just let me put this out. If you want the full list, you can find it on myjoyonline.com, please. Yeah.
Yes. What surprised me was the reward of Honorable Howard Kumsin, the outgoing Member of Parliament of Wichu Senya East. Obviously,
what was surprising about it?
We all know the kind of violence and lawlessness and incompetency exhibited in the constituency. And looking at the fact that, in 2020, there were even gunshots fired at the registration center in Kaso and all that, and yet President Akufo-Addo awarded her. It's worrying. But of course, Dr. Bawumia, with this, appalling performance, and that is how come now they have 38%, and in Greater Accra they have 2%, and also the fact that and the fact that we have 187 seats, just because Dr. Bawumia is the flag bearer or the presidential candidate for the MPP, and look at the abysmal performance, and yet he was awarded. And of course, it looked like what at all were they actually rewarding? And you see, it looked more of rewarding the MPP apparatchiks more than even people who, more of the MPP apparatchiks than even the Ghanaians who have really worked hard and deserve that award. But
you
anyway,
don't think this
we are not surprised.
Purely based on merit?
And Sweetie, let me tell you something.
Answer the question. You don't think it was purely based on merit?
It's not merit. When Howard Kumsin, known a figure of violence,
I wish we had more time.
About to talk about the elephant and the medal.
I wish we had more time to get into
the medal. What do you see the medal?
What's terribly wrong with it?
What language is, or what is the meaning of the elephant?
That is the ignorance on the part of
ignorance. Hold on.
That medal has been used. That emblem has been used since 1960.
me get final comments from Wisdom Dogbe. Gentlemen, please, let's Dennis, let's do this. Gideon, hold on a second. Hold on.
I knew you would do this.
Dennis, Wisdom, please mute them for me. Wisdom Dogbe, let me get your reflections on this quickly.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Look, I will say congratulations to the recipients of these awards. Those of them that who were deservingly awarded these honors for the work they truly did. Congratulations to them. I think it's a matter of pride to be recognized with such national awards. And I want to make sure that we don't belittle such milestone for some of the recipients. But there were some recipients, sweetie, who shouldn't have been invited to the event in the first place, let alone be given awards. I will end it there.
Do you want to give me two names so I have you on record? Just
all right.
two names.
I won't give you two names, but I'll mention this quickly. Then we can go quickly. Those that served on the Economic Management Committee and led the nation to this level of economic downturn, and those that led the nation into more doom. So some of those things were still there, and they should not have been invited even to the event in the first place.
Thank you so much. Now, the opinions expressed by our guests do not represent the views or positions of Joy News or the multimedia group. That there is Wisdom Dogbe, financial analyst. In the studio, we have Gideon Tete. He's Greater Accra Regional Director for Conflict Resolution from the NDC. And we also had Dennis Apialabi Ampofo, member of the NPP Manifesto Committee on Education. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending a bit of your morning with us.
Thank you very much, sweetie.
Well, you're watching the AM show on Joy News. We'll be back with more Say for Sports after we get into our big stories. Keep watching.
That is always the first challenge that they report to Parliament every year. Last year, by now, in November, when WAEC appeared before Parliament, government was owing WAEC about 122 million Ghana cedis. This year, the situation is not too different. It was about 116 or so until the last 25 was paid last week or so. And so there's a systemic issue, which is cash flow. We need to reset the cash flow mechanism so that we finance WAEC at the point that they need the money to expedite work on WASSCE, and also such that WAEC is able to have the needed resources they need to invest to reduce examination practices, if not eliminated at all, after all.
So out of the 108.
Welcome. This is our big story segment on the AM show. We take a look at the West African Examination Council. We know that they've released the provisional results of the 2024 West African Senior High School Certificate Examination. It's coming very late, but and that's because of some monies that were owed to them. We'll get into the details shortly. But the council has also cancelled subject results for 4,108 candidates. They've annulled the entire result of 483 candidates, withheld subject result for 781 candidates, and again withheld the entire result of 209 candidates. Why is this really happening? The council is also investigating additional cases and have assured the public that appropriate actions will be taken once the investigations are complete. Now let's hear from our stakeholders. We've been joined by John Kapi. He's head of public affairs at WAEC. We also have Mr. Peter Nochukutoi. He's ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee. Let me start with John Kapi. Good morning, John. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. Let me see if we have Mr. Nochukutoi also with us. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, gentlemen. So let me start with you, John Kapi. We understand that about 35 million Ghana cedis was released, and which is what facilitated the conclusion of the marking, and now you've released the results. But I want you to tell us what really is going on. Give us a pin on everything that's happening so far in terms of the results cancelled, the ones that results have been withheld, the annulment, and then we can talk about the debts later. What's going on?
So, first of all, we have been able to work out, we've been able to scan the results, we've been able to, the objective cards, we have also released the results. Now we have these, there are some that have been cancelled. Now when you look at the cancelled results, normally in council here, what we say is that there are routine cases. So there are 4,108 candidates whose subject results have been cancelled.
Yes.
Candidates who were engaged in malpractices in the course of the examination, they were picked up, they confessed to the offense, and so that is the reason we've gone ahead to cancel those subject results. Now, for those whose entire results have been cancelled, the rule is that if you possess a mobile phone in the examination hall, your entire results will be cancelled. So these are for mobile phone infractions. Now, for those whose results have been withheld, either subject results or entire results, these are reports that have come to us from our examiners, those who are marking the papers. They observed in the course of marking that, for example, for the subject results, some candidates colluded, some people shared some information. And so these we would have to take a second look at and then give the candidates a hearing before we would go ahead and take a decision. Now, for those whose entire results have been withheld, these are areas where we have received information that some things happened. And these have been confirmed by our examiners. And so again, we would have to take a look at them and invite the candidates here, or we go to wherever they are and then have them also tell us their side of the story before we go ahead and take any decisions.
Mr. Kapi, so, the results are already coming in late. When do you intend to give these candidates a hearing? As soon as possible, I hope. Do you have a date in mind?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that we've come to this level, but then we are recalling staff again. This has been a very turbulent year for us. Rather than report on the 6th, we are starting on the 3rd, just so that we can expedite action on these withheld results. And then if there's nothing that we find incriminating, we release them so that the candidates will proceed with their academic pursuits.
Is there any financial constraints that would affect these processes that you're embarking on, starting on the 3rd? Do you need money? Do you have it already? What's the money bit? How's the money bit looking?
Well, usually what happens is that when we are done with our scrutiny over here and we need to meet with the candidates, we choose to go closer to them. So we go to our regional offices, and that is where we have these interactions with the candidates. And of course, for officers to travel, you've got to take care of their per diem, their hotel accommodation, all of that. So those also have financial implications. And so really we would need some financial assistance to be able to go ahead with this particular exercise.
Does that mean you do not already have the funds to go on with this exercise?
Well, as for funds, you may have to curtail one end in order to carry out another. Sometimes you realize that, well, this is quite urgent, so why don't we put this other on hold in order to be able to do this? We have done that over the period, and maybe that is what we are going to apply. I'm not saying that is exactly what's going to be done, but I'm taking a cue from things that have happened in the past. It is possible that we would have to put a few things on hold in order to have this done quickly and then release the results.
Does that also mean that the 35 million cedis has already been expended and there's nothing left out of that installment that was paid to you? I believe on the 25th of December, was it?
Yeah, so on the 25th of December, there was a release of 35 million Ghana cedis that we have in our account. But, unfortunately, I'm not the spending officer, so it will be difficult for me to tell specifically. Right. But then we had listed a number of things that we needed money for. We needed to expand our bandwidth. Yesterday, we had a few challenges, but we've been able to solve those challenges. So we have uploaded the results. We've got our technicians. Fortunately, they've done the job for us. We've been able to pay them, so they are no longer holding us to ransom. But then if there are any other things that money was used for, that I will not be in a position to tell right now unless I have a discussion with the Director of Finance. Okay.
Before I go to Mr. Peter Nochukutoi, would you say that the debts owed WASSCE had anything to do with the, the situation we have now, the cancelled results, the withheld results, the malpractices that was featured during this examination? Would you say that the debt that was owed WASSCE and their inability to actually move on with the procedures smoothly had anything to do with the results we're seeing right now?
Well, yeah, remotely, because we could not deploy the number of monitors that we wanted to deploy because we realized that monitoring is a problem, and so we usually would engage privately trained monitors to go around. Unfortunately, we could not get them to to go to all the places that we wanted to go to because of budgetary constraints. So yes, it has had an effect on the issues that have come up with examination malpractices. But then largely I would say that our inability to keep our machines working and be able to meet our deadlines has been one big shot on us, and we wish that does not happen in the future.
Thank you. Please stay with me. Let me go to Mr. Peter Nochukutoi now. Sir, you are ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, and I've heard you talk about WASSCE's debt and the issues that fell out of that. Now, Mr. Kapi is saying that in parts the debt affected the results we are seeing right now. What do you make of all this?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate WASSCE on their efforts and all that they have done to release the results, although a couple of days behind the scheduled date. It wasn't their fault, since the fault was that of government. If they had received all their money before the commencement or the examination or in the process, I am sure they would have been able to make it on the targeted date of the 9th December. So my congratulations to them. They have really shown that given their resources, they can do their best. And that we want all institutions, that all institutions of state should be resourced at the very critical time that they needed their funds. This is because at the end of every year, Parliament approves money for various agencies, and WASSCE no exception. WASSCE has programs that are time-bound, and if monies are not released at the critical time that it is needed, it affects their performance. And that's exactly what we have seen this year. For a couple of years now, release of funds to WASSCE has become a headache, and we have to be talking before money are released piecemeal, and I don't think that is the best. Now, I am very sure that the delay in releasing funds has affected the results, because they needed money to go to the field to carry out the investigation and a lot of things. Money has not come. So how do they go about it? So for me, they have released the results, but going forward, they will still need time and money to do whatever is important for them to come out with a very credible resource. I am not saying what they have done is not credible, but if they had their time, money, or the resources, I think some of the calculations, they could have even resolved them before coming out with the provisional resource. But I urge them to continue the good work that they are doing, so that they can get those issues resolved as quickly as possible, so that candidates who are not affected or who unfortunately are affected can get their results released to them, so that they can continue with their tertiary education if they are given the opportunity.
Mr. Nochukutoi, what do you know about, or what explanation do you have as a ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee about why there's a delay in payment of the remaining, I think, so far they've paid 58 million. So that should be about half of what's actually owed. What do you know about why they haven't actually paid everything yet in full?
Oh, I know very well that every budget year, we give approval to various sums of money for various agencies. And WAEC is no exception. We sit down with them, we calculate how much a student or a candidate will pay for the BECE or the WASSCE. And the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, they are all there with the committee members and the officials of WAEC. We have done that several years now. So when we all agree that this is going to be the examination fee payable by candidates, and government says, I am going to pay, what is important is that government must release the money. So the delay is as a result of government's inability to release funds to them. We know that candidates from private secondary schools, they pay the full cost for the examination. There's no subsidy from government for them. And I can tell you that all the preparatory work that are done by WAEC in releasing the results, in making sure that they register the candidates for examination, WAEC spends on fees paid by private candidates. So if no candidate is paid as a private candidate, WAEC would have found it very, very difficult to even go through the registration process. And that is not good enough for us. I feel that the Ministry of Education have not prioritized WAEC in its disbursement activities. So I will urge that going forward, WAEC given that opportunity, that they are resourced at the time that they need money, so that we don't experience this type of delay going forward and backward. We don't experience it again.
Right. And please stay with me. Let me just put out that we do want to understand how the late release of the results, how is it affecting parents and students? So we're opening the phone lines now. You can call us and let's get interactive. Tell us how you, what you make of all of this. Now let me go to Mr. Kapi. As we speak, how much do you need to proceed with the remaining parts of the process? You talked about giving these candidates who've been affected a hearing, and I believe that would mean going to various parts of the country and all that. I know you are not a financial spokesperson, but do you know how much you need? Although you are owed a substantial amount of money, but how much out of that would you need to be able to conclude on the process?
Well, I think that maybe a couple of hundreds of thousands would do, because we deploy them everywhere across the country, so I cannot give a specific figure. I've never actually worked on this myself, so it's just conjecture. I do not have any specific response I can give to that. But obviously, a couple of hundreds of thousands should suffice.
Okay, and so as we speak, the total debt owed you stands at what?
For WASSCE, there's an outstanding debt of 58 million Ghana cedis. And for BEC, there's an outstanding debt of 4.9 million Ghana cedis.
Okay. Thank you. Now, do you know, have you any of the effects of this late release of results come to your attention? Do you know how it's affecting students, parents all over the country?
Well, I have picked up some signals from some parents who were actually waiting, and especially when the University of Ghana indicated the 3rd of January as a deadline for them to upload whatever their results are. I realize how people are running all over the place to ensure that they get their admissions, their applications to the universities. I have a few colleagues of mine over here, including my very self, who are also doing everything possible to get our awards, gain admission into the universities.
Thank you. Mr. Nachukutoi, so going forward, I mean, the government is changing, should I say. The new administration is coming in. What are your expectations in terms of what they can do to change the narrative in terms of money owed WAEC? And even this morning, we had stories about caterers under the free school feeding program who also owed some money. But I want to focus on the incoming administration. What are your expectations of them, Mr. Nachukutoi?
Come to that. When Parliament was in session about 2 weeks ago, I made a statement on the floor, which was admitted by the Speaker. And the Minister was asked to appear before the House and then explain to us what was the cause of the delay in releasing money to WAEC and what he was doing to make sure that the various amounts of money owed WAEC was released. As we speak now, he did not turn up within the 24-hour period given to him. So when Parliament resumes on 2nd January, I'm going to raise the issue again so that the minister is brought before the House.
Thank you
the
so
58 million Ghana cedis that is left will demand information on it. If government will be able to pay before the handover, I know of the BEC about 4.9 million, which is also in arrears. So in effect, it's about 63 million. What are they doing about it? So I'm going to raise that issue or those issues when Parliament resumes on 2nd January. Now, moving forward, there's a need for prioritization of education and resourcing of educational institutions and organizations that work for this country. And I can assure you that these issues of non-release of money, go here, go there, will not occur in the new administration. We are going to engage stakeholders as quickly as possible. What is the way forward? How do we resolve these issues? The school feeding program, the free senior high school, and critically WAEC. Are we sure we are helping WAEC to do what is expected of it, so that internationally certificates awarded by WAEC will compete favorably with other institutions overseas that also organize similar examinations.
Okay.
So let this government hand over, but I urge them to clear all these arrears because they have released so much money to other institutions. If they have not done that to the Free Senior High School Secretariat or the Ministry of Education, they should do so before the 7th so that they can clear their arrears to WAEC to enable them also pay their accreditors. I know they owe their accreditors so much so that we can start on a clean sheet.
All right. So now let's get on the phone with Emmanuel. He's calling us all the way from Kumasi. Emmanuel, good morning. You're on the AM show. Are you a parent? How is the latest results that have just been released? How is it affecting you? Speak to us.
Good morning, City, and good morning to your cherished listeners and the viewers. Yeah, it really affected me because right now I don't even know whether my child can get admission to the university. So 2 things for me that I want Mr. Happy to respond the issue of withheld jobs because my son is in one subject health. I don't know how dealing with going forward. And then the second thing is, please, the media, can you out the university in terms of the late release of results and the fact that admission is almost over? What should parents do? Because if they don't get admission now, then it means the children have to stay home for another 1 year, which is going to affect us. You are going to feed him or her for that 1 year. So can the universities help us understand the way forward if the media can reach out to them for us? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And Emmanuel is talking about admission and, how soon we can resolve the issues about the results that have been withheld. Mr. Kapi, is there any special arrangement between you and the universities in terms of how you can facilitate or ensure that those who are looking for admission can still get admitted, even though the results are now or only now being released?
For the universities, they are able to access the results anytime they want. They usually will pay and then download the results directly from our system. The delays, each time that we realize that there's no merit in any of the allegations, we upload them so that in subsequent downloads, they will be able to access the results of those that were not released early enough. So that is the only system that we have for now, that each time that we are able to upload, they are aware, and so they can further download and then see if, those people who have applied have had their results released, and they go ahead and offer them admission.
Okay, I want us to talk about some noticeable trends in subject performance, but let's speak to Francis in Kumasi first. Francis, good morning. You're on the AM show. Talk to us.
Good morning, madam, and good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners.
Good morning,
my
Francis.
issue is on the withholding of the results. My niece results has been withheld. Let's say about 5 or 6 subjects of the exams has been withheld, and I don't know why. This guy has to resume school and we have to seek admission for them. Yes, this result has been withheld. Let's say English, mathematics, and integrated science. All these subjects have been withheld. So how do we get admission for them? And how long is it going to take for these results to be released, please?
Well, Mr. Kapi, thank you, Francis. But Mr. Kapi was explaining that some of the results were withheld or suspected offences. But he's here. He can respond to that bit. Mr. Kapi, before we move on to the noticeable trends in this result, could you just reiterate for clarity why these results were withheld, why those were cancelled, and all the the necessary nuances in there?
Right. So the examiners in the course of marking would have observed that these certain responses run through all the scripts of candidates, and there's similarities and sometimes word for word, even sometimes the same spelling mistakes and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that would cause them to say they suspect that something untoward happened. Now, so they report these things to us, and we do not react based on those allegations. We need to ascertain for ourselves that indeed this happened, and then we provide the opportunity for the candidates also to respond that, okay, this is what happened, or they deny whatever it is that we allege would have happened at the examination centers. So that is why I mentioned earlier that we are making plans to recall staff by the 3rd of January so that they can expedite action on some of these results that have been withheld. And if there's any merit in that, okay, fine, then we would invite them to come and answer questions. If there's no merit, we go ahead and release them. And of course, once we release, the universities are notified and they can download the results appropriately.
Right. So
I just want to add that we should also speak with our wards to learn to do independent work. You see, these are things that you probably would not think have consequences. But at the end of the day, here we are, parents are, apprehensive. The wards do not tell the truth when they get back home until they are faced with the issues, So we should advise our children that when they go out there, they should do independent work so that once results are released, they can, pick up their results. That is what you have been able to do based on what you know.
Let me stay on that point and ask, so how confident should the public be in the integrity and fairness of this year's results then?
Well, as far as we are concerned, we have done what our system requires us to do. The candidates have written, examiners have marked. The ones that needed to be cancelled were cancelled because we identified those infractions. The examiners have indicated to us that this thing has gone wrong here, that has gone wrong there, do further investigation. So, on our part, we have been able to do what we should do. And we think that we have done a good job. So for this one that have been withheld, we are still going to work on them and ensure that if they deserve the results, why not?
Okay.
We issue them out here to them.
All right. Please hold for me. Let me speak to Alfred from Navrongo. Alfred, good morning. How is the results that have just been released affecting you?
Good morning.
Good morning, Alfred. Alfred, go ahead. We can hear you. Listen to me directly, not on the TV set, Alfred.
I said that my daughter. Okay. What I said is that my daughter, one of her papers have been withheld, and now, please, we know the universities are waiting for them to upload their results. So please, I want to ask, when will this problem be solved? And can they go further to upload their results in list, please?
Okay, Alfred, they're working on it. Mr. Kapi was just telling us they're working on it. But thanks for calling. So, Mr. Kapi, were there any noticeable trends in subject performance that stands out for this year? For instance, maybe decline or improvement in core subjects like mathematics and science. Do you want to walk us through the trends?
Right. So each year we do a comparative analysis of the past 4 years. What we realize is that this year, as compared to last year, there has been an improvement in the performance of candidates in core mathematics. But then in English language, integrated science, and social studies, their performance has dipped. So that is what we put.
By what margin did it dip?
So, for example, for English language, it has dipped from 73.11 in 2023 to 69.52 in 2024. For inter-science, from 66.82 to 58.77. And for social studies, from 76.76 to 71.53. So for these three core papers, yes, the performance has dipped. But then for core mathematics, at least we've gone up from 62.23 to 66.86%.
Interesting. And what factors do you believe contributed to the performance levels that we are seeing, especially the decline?
Well, for now, it is difficult to tell. Usually, we depend on the chief examiner's report to be able to tell what exactly happened. They are able to point out to us the weaknesses of our candidates in the various areas of the examination, where there's a need for them to have some bit of reinforcement. And so we expect that in the next couple of weeks, our officers will be done with putting together the chief examiner's report, and then we can tell, what actually went wrong with, the candidates in these papers.
Okay, I don't know if we still have Mr. Peter Nochukutoy with us. I wanted you to give me your overall assessment of performance this year. I mean, with the results that Mr. Kapi have just given us, in terms of the decline especially. Do we have Mr. Nochukutoy on the line? Okay, great. Mr. Nochukutoy, I think we just lost Mr. Nochukutoy. All right. We have Samson on the line with us. Samson is calling us from Kumasi. I believe he's also a parent. Samson, good morning. And speak to me on your phone. Don't listen to me through the TV set. What is your issue with the results that's just been released?
Yeah, I'm calling from Mahama in the country region.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Kapi was saying we should talk to our children when they come home. Our children spend most of their hours in the school. They've got counselors in the school. It is their duty to counsel our children properly so that they don't themselves the risk of possible. So our advice, the counselors in the school should do well, train our for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samson. And Mr. Kapi, so with these results, what does it say about the state of Ghana's education system, especially senior high school?
For now, I think that a lot of work will have to be done, especially in the core subjects, Sometimes, these are not things that the council works on directly anyway, but there are some of the people who are teachers and who I've interacted with, and they indicate the numbers and the difficulty of, controlling them such that you're able to impact meaningfully when you are teaching. So that is one of the areas, and I believe that if there are more interactive hours between the teachers and the candidates, it probably would be helpful for them to be able to perform better than they are doing right now.
So in terms of support for students and schools, how is WASSCE supporting those who failed these core subjects? If they need to resit their exams, is there any support for them?
So what we've done is that previously when candidates did not do well, they had to wait for the next private exam to resit the papers. But we have been able to introduce a new diet of examination, what we call the WASSCE PC1. That will be done early next year. That will be in January and February 2025. So when they access their results right now and they realize that probably they need to rewrite or restate 1 or 2 papers, we have between now and January 8th for them to visit any cafe, go to our site and register to write the exam in January and February. Besides that, we are going to expedite action on the chief examiner's report so that they read that and they are able to tell where they probably went, wrong, or where they could not answer the questions appropriately. And I believe that will be helpful for them going forward.
Is this common knowledge? Are parents aware of this WASSCE 1 in February and March?
We have advertised. It's on our website. As I said, I'm going to send another to the results checker site also, just so that parents are able to see them. We've put up banners. We have one in front of the office here. We have one at the exam center at airport. We have also sent out a number of posters that are across the country in our regional offices. So there are also flyers that they are making. I know a lot of people may not have seen them.
Yeah.
But for the opportunity we get to speak, I'm happy that you've asked me. Don't tell me to pay for the advert anyway. But then we are trying to ensure that at least if they are able to write in January and February, then by the next cycle of admissions, they will be in a position to enter rather than having to wait for another year. Which means they probably stay home for 2 years.
Right. Great. Again, please hold for me. I have Charles on the line with me. Charles is calling from Tema. Charles, what's the issue? What's your issue with the just released WAEC results?
Okay. Thank you, madam. Yeah, my issue is also the same. Hello?
I can hear you, Charles. Go ahead.
Yeah, my issue is the same with health results. My daughter has 3 subjects with health. Yeah.
Charles, I lost you there for a second. What did you say?
I said I have the same issue with health results.
Right. Okay.
My daughter had 3 results with health, and then I am pleading with Mr. Kaki, as he has said that they will fasten things so that they will release their results. I'm begging him to try and do that so that they can get their admission to the schools. Some of our wards, they really lay hard and work hard for their results. So whatever investigation they are doing, I'm begging him to make sure things is fastened so that our wards can enter to the tertiary institutions. That is my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charles. Mr. Kapi, so those whose results have been cancelled, they can also sit this WASSCE 1 exam in February and March?
Yes, they can. Once there is you have not been barred for a number of years, you are qualified to sit the exam. It's in January and February.
January, February, great.
Yes.
What are the other qualifications? Let's put all the information out there in terms of the details. What are the qualifications? How much is involved? Do you have to pay for it? Where can you sit the exam?
Okay, so for now, the exams will be taken in our regional capitals because of the, the candidature. We are not able to go to all the various centers that we usually would do when we have school exams. But then, so the registration is still ongoing. It will end on Wednesday, 8th January.
Okay.
Prospective candidates are requested to visit any WAEC website, registration details, and register at WAEC accredited internet cafes. There are some of them you see the WAEC logo on them. They do registration for us. They have a link with us. So they would do it. The examination will take place from 24th January to 15th February 2025. 24th January to 15th February 2025. So if there are any candidates who would want to better their grades and then gain admission next year, they should take advantage of this particular examination. And I'm sure that they will be in a position to further their education if they are able to do well. Yeah.
Right. And how much is involved for registration and sitting the exam?
The figures are not directly in front of me right now, but they are on the site. So when they visit the site, all of this information will pop up, and then they can tell. You can register for just one subject. You can also register all the 8 subjects. That depends on the individual who is writing the exam.
Okay. Mr. Kapi, just to conclude the conversation, what reforms or improvements would you recommend for WAEC and the broader educational system, to enhance outcomes in the future, so we can avoid these cancellation and withholding of results going forward?
When it comes to examinations, it's a partnership between us and the Ghana Education Service. They would provide for us the invigilators, and we would normally do the the moderating and then setting of questions with print. We have officers who will be in areas where they keep custody of the questions. The only thing we need from our teachers is for them to be vigilant in the examination halls. The children are quite vulnerable, and there are some of them who may have a low self-esteem. And so if they get in there and they feel inadequate and anybody brings anything to them, they think that, well, this is better than what I know. So they pick that up and then they write it. Unfortunately, that affects them. It's not a pleasant thing for us to have to announce cancellation. And it's a lot of work sitting down to scrutinize and to look at the merits of all of these. Now, so if everybody would sit up and do what is right, we would also have less work to do, and this kind of back and forth would no longer occur. So I think that going forward, the counselors we have in the schools should give adequate counseling to the candidates, indicating to them that having done 3 years of senior high school education, you are in a position to write the examination and pass on your own without having to depend on anybody. You sat in the same classroom with other people, you are taught the same thing. Go there and do what your strength can lead you to do. Leave the rest to WAEC. And that is what I can say for now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kapi. And just, to confirm before you go, starting 3rd January, you'll be engaging the students who've been affected by the cancellation and withholding of results and all the issues that have come up so far, right?
Well, we will begin the preliminary, investigations locally, within our office. And when we are settled with that, we'll invite the candidates, to answer questions. So what we are going to do from the 3rd of January will be to go through the scripts again ourselves.
Right. Okay.
And for some of them that we think the evidence is not conclusive enough, we quickly release the results for them to be able to go to the tertiary institutions of their choice.
We do have to go, but I have a last call and I'll allow it. Please hold for me. Let's listen to Thomas. Thomas is calling from Kumasi. Thomas, what's your issue?
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I'm really calling from Italy. I have an issue with WAEC. WAEC, they have been reporting them with people that involved in examination malpractices. They even caught some people red-handed. And before you realize those people are set free, we have never heard some people being jailed because of examination malpractice. And this thing keep on going. And students, they see it to be normal. But that is to why if they are able to prosecute these people, these examination malpractices will reduce. And my advice to parents that if your ward is going to write exams, just warn the ward against this examination malpractice. I had my ward. I warned him seriously against that. I said, when you see foreign material, throw it away. Never try to copy from a friend, not to send any foreign material inside. Because when you are caught and your paper is cancelled, I will never come in to support you in education. And those who performed well. But why have to sit up? Why officials, most of them collide with teachers and the students cheat? How come that you set questions and the questions leak? So why, I think the way forward is to set another examination body that will make it competitive. When it becomes competitive, why it will sit up? because they are now a more or less monopolistic entity. They feel that whatever they do, the public will take it. But when it becomes competitive, then they will know that if we don't sit up, the other one or the other entity will take all our students away. Then things will then move on as Ghanaians want.
Right. Thank you so much, Thomas.
I think we have to look at that one seriously. And I recommend something like ICA. There's no way.
Thank you so much, Thomas from Kumasi. Mr. Kapi, I'll give you about 10 seconds if you want to respond to that.
I'm happy that he advises people to ensure that they desist from, engaging in examination malpractice. Reports that have come to us, people that we have arrested, we have ensured that they've been prosecuted. Sometimes they meet people from the GS and they assume they are WAEC officials. Because in the course of exams, GS officials also go out.
Right.
We also have our monitors who are out there. So I'm not sure that any WAEC official worth his salt would want to sit down and watch somebody misbehave and go scot-free. So, well, I cannot dispute that unless, the evidence is in front of me. But then they should continue to assist us to ensure that we are able to do the right thing. The issue about a rival examining body, fine, it's an open market. So if there are plans for anyone to establish a rival examining body, why not? They are liberty to do so.
Right. Thank you so much, John Kapi. John Kapi is head of public affairs at the West African Examination Council, and he joined us to put in perspective the fallout from the results that have just been released. And just to reiterate, students who failed or whose papers have been cancelled can resit their WASSCE 1, which is an examination that they're doing to help students still transition, and it's starting on the 24th of January to the 15th of February. So go to their website and register if you fall in that category so you can resit the exam and make your way to the university. Well, there's still so much coming your way around the world and across Ghana's 16 regions. This is the AM show with me, Sweetie Abochi. When we return, we'll be having some end-of-year conversations, and we want to invite you into the conversation as well. So we'll be populating a Zoom meeting ID and passcode. You can join. We are looking for highlights for the year, the biggest stories that made waves that caught your attention, and really lessons learned from 2024 and how it will shape your year 2025, which begins tomorrow. We'll be back. Check our social media platforms for the meeting ID, but we also put it here when we return from the break. We'll be right back. In the Ashanti region, what was your highlight?
Well, in the Ashanti region, it's a very populated region, and the Ashanti region is well known for the conversation around politics. And this year, it was not different.
Yes.
Because it was an election year. And the politics in the Ashanti region was one that you can talk of in town. When you walk around town, people talk of the politics and the fact that the Ashanti region would become a determiner when it comes to the 2024 general election. And I must say, well, they were right in a way, and they didn't make any bad decision when it comes to the fact that the Ashanti region would make a say or would have a statement when it comes to the 2020.
In fact, they kept saying the Ashanti factor, the Ashanti factor.
And all that. And
how did it pan out? How did the Ashanti factor actually play out?
The Ashanti factor, in fact, how it even came out should be where the conversation will start from. It came out from the fact that the MPP, which has a stronghold in the Ashanti region, was going into a primaries that has Alan Kojo Chematin from the Ashanti region from Ejuso, a primaries that has Kennedy Japan, and then the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who has made his way into the Ashanti region. Well, there was a super delegates conference that was held in the Ashanti region with the Vice President winning with a landslide victory. Then after that, they went into the main election. They went to the main primaries. Then they elected the Vice President to go in as the flag bearer for the party. Then his move out as flag bearer, he has to choose a running mate. A running mate, people started talking. We must bring in an Ashanti to come replace or to come in as a running mate. Fortunately, he brought in Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh. That's where the whole conversation of Ashanti factor started. And I think that, well, it did go well and not so well.
Did it?
The MPP. It did go well and not so well for them.
Right.
But And that's how the Ashanti factor came up.
Right. And then I want us to talk about some key incidents that marked the year. I mean, from that time that Napo was introduced onto this, in fact, it can go back as far back as the energy conversation, that particular interview you had with him. I just want to, let's throw light on particular incidents that are worthy to note that actually made waves in 2024. And I want you to start with that conversation. I remember when you were asking the then Minister for Energy about a timetable.
So I think that interview came up during the launch of the Ashanti regional campaign. I went to cover the event at the KNUST.
Yeah.
I realized that there were high-profile figures of the MPP in there, and the then energy minister, as a member of the party's campaign in the Ashanti region, he was not named running mate at that time. You could hear big names of people who wanted to come in as running mate, Dr. Mosayawa Duchum, and then the then energy minister himself, who then turned out to be the running mate. So I spotted him, and he was not having any interview with anybody. But I'm like, let me go speak to Dr. Matthew
Because, you are brave.
Why don't I go speak to Dr. Matthew Pokopepe? I approached him and I asked him, Doc, people are talking about Doomso. And Doomso was a conversation at that time. People were worried about the fact that government is not admitting that there's Doomso. And there's Doom CAC. Well, I asked him about it. He said there's no Doomso, but there's Doom CAC. Doc, there's Doomso. There's no Doomso. You were describing it as Doomso. But people are calling for a timetable, even if you call it as Doom CAC.
Yeah.
Well, those who want a timetable should go and draft their own timetable. Those things, then it drove out some controversies, not just in the Ashanti region, but across the country, where people were blasting him for not speaking out their concerns.
Because you're my co-host, we can pause here. Let's go to Zoom and speak to our other regional correspondents, and then we continue the conversation. Do you want to usher in Rafiq Salam?
Okay, so Rafiq Salam is joining us from WA. Hello, Rafiq. How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you also in Accra?
Sweetie and I, we are doing very great.
Yes, fabulous. Rafiq, we're looking for highlights for 2024 as we wrap up today. In terms of the newsworthy stories, in fact, everything really that made waves. What were the highlights for you?
For me, thank you for this opportunity. For me, 2024 started well, and then one with the same challenges that the region has been facing in terms of inadequate health infrastructure, deployable roads, and then also a host of other interventions that the country or the region needs. And then also I did this story about a stray child where where a child was perceived to be treated, and then even they have to take that child to a native doctor somewhere around the Cuba municipality. And that was, we followed the story and brought it to the limelight. And then after that, the baby was taken to the regional hospital, and then after that, saved from what he or she will have gone through in that. But beyond that is the usual development roles in the upper region that we are having, where we have done several stories. One key road that we have been speaking about has to do with the Tumu and Wa road, which almost every government has promised to deliver, but none of them has been able so far to be able to give it a stimulus in the region. The other road has to do with now the Wa Kumasi road or Accra. Wa to Accra is about 744 kilometers usual. At least minimum, we used to do like 12 hours from Wa to Accra. Now, going to Accra is about 19 hours, 19 or 20 hours, which is really hell for the people. So it was something that was on the front burner as far as the campaign we're concerned. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President, spoke about it, and he actually said that they were going to even give it an asphalt overlay before the elections. Dr. John Dramani Mahama also came with a promise that given that opportunity, if he is able to, get power again, get back to power, and then he's going to, fix the road. As he speaks now, the road is not fixed, and then there's a lot of expectations from the people that John Dramani Mahama will actually fix that road. Not only that road, from Sola to Tamale, it's also not a good road. And so We're still talking about issues of infrastructure. Like as I said last year, what the Upper West needs is not about hospital. I'm not downplaying the issue of this issue of the agenda 111, but I'm saying that if the roads in Upper West region, Upper West is not all that big. If the roads are very good, there's no place in the Upper West region that will take you more than 2 hours to go.
Right.
The where Mahama hails from, it's about 142 kilometers from what, and so you can do like 1 hour 30 minutes if the road was good. And so we need to have good roads, have one good hospital, personal hospital, they will take care of the people. And so that's what the people who are really looking up to the new administration to take care of. And then also the issue of fertilizer. Well, you know, me, I'm a farmer, so this year I couldn't farm because there was the fertilizer, there was no fertilizer on site, and so.
It looks like we have a network interruption. I wanted him to get to the bit about, you know, we recorded some deaths, some killings in the Upper West region. I wanted to get a bit of that. But I think we can go to Peter Senu now. Peter Senu is joining us from the OT region. Peter, good morning. And congratulations, the last day of 2024. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Good morning.
Great. Good morning, Peter.
Yeah.
So we're looking for highlights. Highlights of 2024. I can hear you loud and clear, Peter. Go.
Sure. Okay, for OT region, the year started, just as Rafi said, on a good note, with the residents from the Nkwanta South. I'm calling for some peace to come to the area. You know, the place last year was bedeviled with some land and then communal clashes. That took a number of lives away. And so the year began with the residents calling for peace and all that. But as we speak, there's relative peace in Nkwanta that we can talk about, that no one has died as we speak. And so fast track to sometime March, April, in the Akan constituency, so to say politically, the demise of His Excellency Rashid Bawa in the Akan constituency. So that took a lot of shine from politics. And so it was a political big week if you come to the Akan constituency. And so ran down to the December elections. In fact, it took a lot of shine. It was a big week, a big person to rub shoulders with. And so it was like nothing has happened in terms of politics here. And so his demise took a lot of shine from the Akan politics. And the other areas recorded some incidents as far as our lenses have captured. We also traveled down to Damai, the regional capital, where we reported of typhoid cases on the rise as a result of residents' inability to have access to potable drinking water. And that is of significant interest to me, because the then Deputy Water Resources and Sanitation Minister resides in the regional capital. He comes from there, and I have followed him. I think the first half of the MPP government, I followed him to tour the whole region on how to improve water delivery situation across the region. And so to go back there and to see that the residents do not have access to potable water and would have to rely on contaminated water lake was a big one for me, because I also move on the round a lot. Right. And if you go there, you cannot cook, you would have to eat. And so we only fall on food from the roadside. And a lot of us have battled or suffering, and still suffering from typhoid infection on and off. And so that is it for me. And since the creation of the region, a lot more of young men have been posted to the region. And so if you have come to serve your nation and only to go back home, spend the little resources you may have gathered to cure yourself, it was a big news for me. So I followed up on that to look at exactly what the causes of the typhoid was or is, as we still count. And so the good news to that is that the abattoir, which the meat processing, which could also be a possible cause of typhoid infection, has been fixed, I think, just before the elections. And so as we speak, we may have to follow up to confirm, but my sources tell me that it is in use. But as to whether we have all the installations in place to make it function well, we cannot tell. We only have to follow up and see how that is functioning. Right. And so that is it. Yeah, in the OT region, so far, so good. We are glad that we are ending the year on a good note. But for me, a word of caution, at the year ends, a lot of accidents are happening. Where I am standing now is the 56.4 kilometer Jessica and Pepesu road. is part of it. And so cars are speeding, and a lot of accidents before the Christmas has happened. And so we can only advise or caution road users and drivers to exercise more restraint as they use the road. And also worthy of note is that the road has started developing some defects that those in charge, Sino Hydro and government, I don't know what the agreement is, but they must come back and fix those portions that we have reported. And so far so good. We can only pray for 2025 to be better than what we have seen in 2024. Sweetie.
Well, Peter, I'm sure that while you engage the people, they tell you the expectations from the new government in 2025. What do you think would stand out for the people of the OT region in 2025 as we begin to swear in President Mahama on the 7th of January?
That's right, Nana. Well, OT region used to be part of the Volta region, and so it's still an appendage of the Volta region. NDC enjoys more votes, more political will still from the OT region. And so for them, it is a new chapter for them to see how they handle the OT region.
Right.
Because MPP, the outgoing government has done a lot. I must confess that in terms of infrastructure, the outgoing government has done well compared to what used to exist. So it's a new chapter for the new government to match up, or better still compare itself to what the outgoing government has done. And so the expectation is high, but just as the politicians have cautioned, we must expect, our expectation must be measured. And so we are here, we are waiting to see what exactly will happen. Of course, Dumso is rearing its ugly face, and I don't know how the new government is going to handle that. Already, it's having a toll on businesses. I see people who are operating cold stores resorting to their generators just to keep the system running. And so expectations are high, but we only have to be, measured in what we expect from the incoming government, knowing what is existing on the ground. Nana.
Thank you so much, Peter Senu there from the OT region. But before you bring in, is it Ivy Setoji? I want to see if I can go back to Rafiq Salam. Rafiq, if you're with us, I think your network interrupted your flow, but can you talk to us as well on the killings that were witnessed this year, I mean?
The killing in the Upper WASSCE, precisely the one municipality, 18 people killed in the last 3 years, but now a lot of security measures were put in place, and even coupled with what the overload of the Wild Traditional Area has done, coming out with volunteer groups in the region, at least to vigil over some of these issues. So at least it has subsided for now, and so the people are really happy. People are moving about their daily activities, but with a lot of caution. And so I would say that it was an eventful year in 2004, like you also said, and I was crowned the best journalist in the Upper WASSCE. And I also say that glory be to God for that opportunity, and also for my people seeing that I really deserve such an honor. But also going to the expectations of the people of the Upper WASSCE regarding this new government, that people of the Upper WASSCE doesn't need anything apart from talking about good roads, having potable water for them to drink, and so that's what they are looking into the exam. But you see, my deepest worry, before I come now, I had that opportunity, I think a week ago, when I bumped into John Dramani Mahama, president in Tamale, and I had this opportunity of telling him about the need to pick this road from Wak, Bole, and also Masi, and also talking about the Sistala area. I just even told him that, you see, that my mother is his girlfriend, and so he needs to take that place. That's good. Because my mother is a Sistala, I don't know the Mama, somebody from the area. So I prefer to call. I told you that my mother is a girlfriend, and so you need to take that route for your girlfriend, so that when there's a funeral in that particular area, we can also go. But my deepest worry, City, has to do with this issue of this computer lab that were constructed by the Mahama administration in 2016. In the one municipality, we are talking about the regional computer library here. It has been here for 8 years. It was not used. It has not been used, and it's still there. And so yesterday I had that opportunity to tell the regional minister that this thing should work. The nonsense must stop. And so immediately they had to relocate this particular place to the Ghana Immigration Service. For 8 years, it was commissioned by Dr. Omani Boame. 8 years, it has been there overtaken by grass.
Well, Rafiq, congratulations again, CIMG Journalist of the Year for the Upper West Region, and thank you for bringing us those highlights.
Good job,
he is, isn't he? Fantastic work, Rafiq. Nana, where are we going to next?
Ivy Setoji is joining us from the Volta region. Hello, Ivy. 2024 is coming to an end. How has it been? What are the highlights from the Volta region?
Well, good morning. It's been fantastic, even though with some up and downs, but God has been faithful, actually. I want to start with the expectations. I covered some stories with residents appealing to the president-elect, John Dramani Mahama, to make sure or making the point to only appoint competent leaders to his administration so he doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past, according to the resident. And he also asked him to fire whether the person is close to him or not. And also we have women, especially the rural women, those into fishing and farming, asking the vice president-elect, being a woman, to make sure that women rights are well taken care of. Children, everything concerning women empowerment is being taken care of, since she is going to be the vice, or she is now the vice president. So issues with women is very paramount to the women in the Volta region. Issues with women and children. And now they also spoke about the premise fuel, where politicians are allegedly holding the premise fuel, making it impossible for the fisher post to get enough for their fishing activities. I also covered a story on rural farmers, and that's the rural women farmers in the Angoga districts, where they complain about climate change. They complain about a lot of issues that is hindering their progress as rural farmers. And they are asking the vice president-elect again to help them, especially, you remember Mahama promising banks for women. The vice president also promised banks for women. And so they want that her to facilitate that as early as possible so they can have enough resources for their farming and fishing. We also covered a story where a 19-year pregnant girl was forced to sleep with 15 men a day, a Nigerian who was rescued in Ghana, and that's child trafficking. It was really, really bad. We followed that story until she was sent back to unite with her family. And also, the victory party or victory celebrations in the Volta region, where Voltarians said they are very happy that this is more like an independence, or the second independence for Ghana. But they are expecting the John Dramani Mahama and his vice president to do a lot, because they have a lot of expectations. So if you look at the Aplau whole road, it's very terrible. It's been there for years and nothing has been done about it. Residents want something urgent to be done about that road. And also water issues, sanitation issues as well. I had the opportunity to ask the president-elect some questions. One particular one was the coastal erosion. The tidal waves in the coastal line. That is the Caterer and all those places. So I had that opportunity, and he promised doing something about the issue. So we are hoping that something is done about the issue. So that's the highlights of it.
Well, Ivy, I'm sure that in the Volta region, one seat, not even to be sure, one seat that came as a surprise to me is the Hohoi seat. Don Peter Mewu losing the seat in Hohoi. He took it from the NDC, now he's lost it back to the NDC. How is the mood in Hohoi?
Well, it's cool. The residents of Hohoi are going by their normal activities. Some of them feel that it is time for the NDC to have the sticks back so they can have more development. Mind you, Amawu has done a lot of development in Hokwe district. Yeah. That is a fact. But I don't know, the dynamics and everything that happened in a way was more like a shock. But trust me, the NDC this time around was very, very solid on the ground. They were so vigilant. According to our findings, there were so much on the ground, especially their grassroots campaigners or guys and ladies who were on the ground. So that played a lot. You remember what happened to NDC in 2016? Yeah. According to residents, exactly what happened to NPP. There was apathy. And so the people were angry and they were not able to vote for NDC. If you remember that issue, it's the same thing that happened. So the residents were like, the NPP should have learned some kind of lesson from that year, 2016, but they couldn't. And so exactly what happened to NDC in 2016 is what is happening. And so, of course, the residents are happy that the NDC took back their seat, and they are hoping that the new MP, Walanyo, is able to deliver on his promises, especially the president-elect and the vice president-elect. I am not concerned about the vice president-elect.
That's all that time will allow us. But our number, Anyabia Mamleto, Georgina Unto. Yeah, we just sold you all. Thank you so much, Ivy.
Of course, today is my younger brother's birthday.
Oh, right. So no, go ahead. Sure. Thank you so much. So, Nana, I think it's two things, right? Rafiq Salam talks about roads. And then Peter Senu talks about they seeing the biggest road infrastructure this year compared to what have been done in previous years. And then Ivy is also talking about, did she mention roads?
She talks about roads and talks about the expectations of the people. And it's really about women development in the Volta region. I wanted to ask you some few questions about that, but before we leave, I would ask you something.
Okay, so let's go to Martina now. Martina Bugri is coming to us all the way from Tamale. Martina, we are talking about highlights and expectations for the coming year. How has it been for you in Tamale as our regional correspondent? What are the stories that really made waves? Martina, if you can hear me, you'd have to unmute.
Okay. Yes, I hope you can hear me now.
Loud and clear, Martina. Go.
Great. 2024 was a great year in the northern region. We did lots of stories on roads, water, and health. And the key one was the dry spell. You know, a dry spell hit the region and the 5 other regions of the north. And it was a big issue that we covered. And the subsequent outcomes that came, there were issues of water that also came up. A health center didn't have water, and pregnant women who went there had to carry their own water for delivery. We did something on that also, and then somebody came in, gave them a borehole, a mechanized one, of course, fitted with a tank, where they can have 24-hour water service now. So now they are enjoying their water, but it's been a great year so far. I mean, as the year comes to an end today, the northern region was great. Issues of elections, but the highlight was the elections and the killing of somebody in the Tolong district. That was one of the biggest things that happened in the region. But largely, yes, it was a great event. Lots of issues came up, great results that we got. We are looking forward to the new year and the beautiful things that lie ahead of us. Now, speaking to people, their expectation is that roads will be an issue. They expect the new government to address is key. For my area, for instance, since February, we haven't had water run through our pipes, and we constantly have to buy. Several other communities are going through same thing. Now, with the dry spell that hit the region, it means that several dams will dry earlier than as usual. And so it means that they would have to do something in the sector of water so that people...
Oh, unfortunately, we lost Martina there.
I think that in the northern region, I was expecting Martina to make mention of the water issues and the unsafe water.
Did, yeah.
I think I was reading a report from the ISSER yesterday, and it talks about the unsafe water conditions in the northern region, especially in the western east Mamprisi district. And it is one thing that anytime you get in touch with people in the northern region, they make mention of. I wanted to ask her some specific communities that she can make mention of, but unfortunately we lost Martina.
Yeah, hopefully we can get her back. I don't know. I think they're working on it. I remember, speaking to her on the midday news. I mean, sometime in the week, in the year rather. And she mentioned that people had to buy alum and put it in the water, and even that at some point became too expensive for them to buy. And the water issue really has been very significant in the upper region.
She also made mention of roads.
Northern region.
Roads, and I think that throughout the conversation that we've had with our correspondents, none of them is taking out the fact that roads is a major issue. But you're in Greater Accra. How is Greater Accra?
Oh no, Nana, watch! Don't do that to me. But Greater Accra has been, I think it's been wonderful. Because we are the capital, a lot happens very fast, over a short period of time.
Where you are, there should be a lot of issues that you must be able to prepare.
No, where I am, security.
Security.
Yeah, sometimes you hear a lot of theft cases, armed robbers, and I've heard from other residents that when they go out late, when they go out and they're returning late, these ride-hailing apps, they refuse to go to the neighborhood because they're afraid that the place is not very secure, and sometimes they are attacked. Of course, the issue of Dumso in some parts of the Greater Accra region. The downside to that for me as an individual is that I'm not home all the time, so I didn't experience Dumso as much as the other people who were just telling me about it.
But would you describe it generally as Dumso?
Yes, it is absolutely Dumso. Nana Wache, if the lights goes off, say Dum. Na so I mean, it's Dumso. I know that that the word was coined to describe that really bad situation that we had where we could go weeks without lights. But absolutely, we still don't have uninterrupted power supply.
As long as it goes on and off,
it is Dumso. I don't know where the argument is there. But this morning on the news review, I saw that someone was telling me that a particular town was completely dark. Was this Sechi? I'll find that. And Sunyane was completely dark. Remember that we've populated the meeting ID and passcode on our social media platforms and even right on your screens. So you watching us can also join the Zoom and we get to hear your stories that make up the highlights for you.
And also not forgetting that we have a female vice president and you are interested in
it was a great year for women.
Women development. How do you take it as a woman?
So let me tell you this story. There was an argument in the newsroom before we went on a break about what really Nana Jane can do as a vice president, because whether or not she has limited powers or none at all is a question or an argument you can make. But I also believe that as the very first female vice president of this country, it would augur well for her to try and break change the status quo. Whether or not she has powers, to actually do something for herself, leave a legacy independent of the administration as the first female vice president. It's something she can absolutely do. But she can actually, even if she doesn't have powers, as a woman, she can influence. And that's the thing, that's a beautiful thing about women that often we overlook, right? Women know how to influence and know how to make, I don't want to say men, but everyone really, make or do things that originally you wouldn't think to do. So as, and she has a very rich background of experiences, so she can really leverage on all that to do something for her legacy as the very first female vice president of this country. I know the expectations are high.
Huge expectations, huge expectation, especially with the fact that the president-elect says that he is going to set up the Women's Development Fund and she is going to head all those things. People are expecting her to cross borders, not just to limit herself to the role that will be given to her by the president. I'm just hoping that she can perform. But do you see her coming in for president?
Oh, good Lord. I hope. I don't know. I don't know. But let's not forget that this year has been a good year for women. The Affirmative Action Bill was passed this year, and it was marvelous. I remember on Women Power Politics, that live broadcast we did, that 2-hour live broadcast we did, we had Comfort Doyo, we had Sheila Battels and some other gender advocates, and he kept telling us that it should have happened longer than it did, but we are glad that it did. Do we have some people joining us via Zoom yet? A lot of them. Wow. Nana Washi, we have our hands full. So who are we admitting first? If you can join us, if you've joined the Zoom call, our director will be admitting you in one person at a time so we can get interactive. I believe we can speak to our first Zoom guest right now. Okay, they're working on it. Okay. But let's go back to the Ashanti region. Yes. Some of the major incidents that I'm told there's one person on the line. Let's speak to... There's a guy in a Barcelona shirt. You support Barcelona? There's a Barcelona fan. Hi, gentleman in Barcelona shirt. Good morning. Oh. We can hear you though. Okay, let's try this again. The gentleman in the Barcelona shirt, if you can hear me, we are speaking to you now. What are your highlights for 2024? Good morning. What's your name? What's your name?
Hello, good morning.
Okay, please, we're trying to get your name and get to talking about what makes the highlights for you. But I think we have to go to Emmanuel Asari, rather. Emmanuel Asari, can you hear me?
Hello, Ima, you're on the line. Can you hear us? Ima, if you can unmute for us so you join the conversation.
Hello?
Yes, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, Emmanuel, we can hear you. Looks like a...
Hello?
We can hear you, Emmanuel.
Emmanuel? Yeah, good.
Okay. Well, there's that. Did we have those internet interruptions this year as well? Do you remember when we had the fiber issues? Yes. Was it this year or last year? No, it was this year.
It was this year.
My good Lord.
Let's not get confused. But there were lots of stories that made waves. Dialysis issues came up. It was a big conversation. Then on the 1st of December, the government decided to make it free for everybody. Yes. We went to the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, to the Kolebu dialysis unit, and you could see how people were complaining about the cost of treatment, and dialysis was very high, and it became a topical issue in the country. And not forgetting the protests. The numerous protests against illegal mining and the fact that Erastus has been awarded yesterday. Galamsey became a topical issue this year. People were on the street, stop Galamsey now. And the documentaries that Joy News we placed out there. And so it was a very big topical issue this year. And I'm told that we have some few people joining us on the line. Emmanuel Asari, you're back. Can you hear us? What were some of the topical issues that you can remember in 2024? Emmanuel, kindly unmute for us.
Yeah, my issue is about GS.
Great.
In fact, some of the headmasters went through a lot in this 2024, especially those schools in the remote areas. When, this time the distribution of the food is being centralized. So you that have a problem without the school not having money, the food will be deposited in a far place, and you'll be asked to go with it with your own vehicle, where headmasters will be struggling with even money to buy fuel. In fact, it was a very headache to some of us in the senior high schools. But as we have been managed up to today, we say God bless most of the heads. We are playing that as we are heading towards a new year, since we changed, for the heads to move out from those stress. It wasn't easy.
Well, thank you so much, Emmanuel. We also have Masawudu on Zoom with us. Masawudu, it's time for us to hear your highlights. Unmute and speak to us. Morning, we can hear you. Go. Is that Masawudu?
Yeah, Masawudu Hamza, yeah.
Masawudu, talk to me. What's the highlights for you?
Yeah, the demonstrators, the Democracy House. And what happened, a small girl was arrested, and another is when they were going, the National Caterer, the people over there, when the people were streaming it, that is my year under review. And I think another thing is the SRAG report on National Caterer. And then, Suki, I would like to beg you, the media, to talk about, in 2017, we committed taxpayers' money into Kuku Road audit. So please, we would like to read the audit. We committed money into it, so we would like to read the audit, find out who did what, so that the person can be punished. We can't commit our taxpayers' money into an audit, and an audit will be somewhere, we don't know what happened, but the projects were hot. Now, the money that we're supposed to use then will not be the same. But we committed another money for audit. And then the audit is not up.
All right. Thank you so much, Masawudu. Nana, where are we going to next?
We're going to Idrisu. Idrisu, if you can hear us, good morning. We're looking at the year in review for 2024. I'm sure there were some topical issues where you are. Tell us more.
Good morning to you and all your viewers across the country. I have this song to sing. They count your blessings, name them one by one, and to surprise all of us what good things God has done to us. MPP losing 2024 election is my topical issue. And I am telling you that MPP lost this election because of our internal wranglings. And I don't know what I'll call this racism in Ghana, because Northerner, Southerner, Votarian, where, no, that's not the thing. We need development of our country. I trust the MPP could do well, but better luck next time. I wish John Mahama all the best. But my party MPP will prepare and come back.
Thank you so much.
This is
the way he started, I thought he was actually an NDC supporter, and then he says, my party will come back.
Wow.
That's wonderful. But another thing that happened in not just Accra, I think it was national, was the anti-LGBTQ plus the bill, the demonstrations that we saw, the conversations, how passionate people really were about whether or not this bill should be passed. How was it received in the Ashanti region?
In the Ashanti region, it was the same energy that flew throughout Greater Accra to the region. I always say that Accra and Kumasi, we are twins.
Are we?
And we think alike. Let me be truthful to you.
Right.
We think alike. And people were really asking questions. Why is President Akufo-Addo not deciding or not ready to assent to the LGBTQ bill? And now that, looking at the fact that the president made mention of the court cases and all that, that was restricting him from assenting to the bill, people are saying, now, the court cases are no more. You still have to put your signature to the bill. So in the Ashanti region, people are expecting the president to sign the bill. If you go to the streets, that's what they are going to tell you.
Right. Let's put a pin in it and speak to TechnoSpark 8. I believe that's the name on your Zoom, but if you can hear us and you've saved your name as TechnoSpark 8, it's your turn now to share your highlights with us. You would have to unmute and speak to us. Oh, there you are. Hi. What's your name?
I'm the president of Jebuna Demu.
Okay, Mr. Demu, talk to us. What was the highlight of 2024 for you?
Okay, for the first time, I join you people now. Say Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
But talking about the 2024 election, all the Ghanaians, we can see that we have come in pace to vote. So the pace that Ghanaians used to vote, you urge that the president-elect should also correct the mistake that the NPP people, the Ghanaian citizens, think they have done. And they did that. Talking about roads in Ghana here, I'm joining you from Savannah region, that is Solar. So we are having some bad road here, but we are hearing that they are doing roads and backward, but we didn't have anything like that.
Okay, Mr. Damu, we are getting some interference in there. We can, unfortunately, continue the conversation, but thank you for joining in. Do you remember the All-African Games? That was a big one for Ghana, wasn't it, this year?
It was a big one for Ghana, but don't forget the controversy.
Oh, yeah, the fallout eventually about the monies involved.
And the accounts that the sports minister had to do. And you can see the number of people who joined our Zoom.
It's a great audience today.
You're all enjoying the show, I guess.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining. Our directors and producers are working to get you to connect with us live. Thank you for joining.
And you realize that the last caller was also talking about roads. I think that's we cannot forget the fact that roads are important, and the people of Ghana are really much interested in the conversation when it comes to road. I have been to Accra for like 2 weeks now. I can tell you that the road issues in Accra are better than what we are seeing in Kumasi. In Kumasi, it's worse. Accra is better. At least when I pass through Osu, when I pass through Laboni, when I go to East Legon and the other areas, I see that you have good roads. But in Kumasi, that's not the same situation. You pass through 123, you see potholes all over. Roads that are constructed in just some few months, you just go there, visit the place, and then you see potholes. So I think it's a topical issue, and going into 2025, we must take them into consideration.
You know that this government is saying that they've constructed the most roads. In fact, the Taunton road infrastructure is one of the biggest things that they did.
But do you see roads? Do you see roads?
Do you see roads?
Do you see roads?
We have to take a break, but before we go, can you all just say hello to us? Can you wave? If you can see me, just wave. In fact, we should wave this way. Hello. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll take a quick break and we'll return with more on the AM show. We appreciate you all joining us. Nana Bwache Dankwayado, my co-anchor. Take us away.
And that's how we take a quick break on the AM show. It's been good doing this with Sweetie Abochi. We'll be back soon. What the theme for the event this evening?
Well, no. We have a theme for the year. This year's theme was God, and so it was our God year. And next year is our Jesus year. And so that would be the general theme for the evening.
And what's the highlights for tonight?
The highlight is the communion and the anointing service.
And why the communion and the anointing service tonight?
Well, it's so important for us to connect to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and to draw the blessing that is in his sacrifice for us on Calvary. And Jesus instituted the Holy Communion before he went to allow himself to be crucified for our sake. And every time and any time we spend time to have communion, it's an opportunity to draw blessing from the broken body and the shed blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. And afterwards, the anointing service just crowns it all beautifully as we trust the Lord to give us the grace we need, the favor we need for us to be able to face a year squarely and to overcome all the challenges that a good year comes with. And so the highlight is the communion and the anointing service.
It's the communion and the anointing service, and everybody must be at the ICGC. But how is it open? Is it open for everybody? Is everybody expected to come in, or is it limited to members of the church?
Not at all. It's an invitation to the whole of Accra. And so from far and near, we are inviting everyone to join us at ICGC Christ Temple at Teshi to be a part of this service, and they will be glad they did. They will be glad they did.
And I'm sure that you have a message from Pastor Mensa Otabil to our viewers. So you can look into the camera and speak to our viewers. The message from Pastor Mensa Otabil to anybody who intends to join the service tonight.
Yes, please. Thank you. And so on behalf of Pastor And Mrs. Soterbill, I would want to just invite you to be a part of the crossover service this evening. We want to encourage you to come in early, 8:30, and be part of the whole service experience. A wonderful service has been curated with different program elements that will truly be a blessing to you. And so we want to invite you to be a part. Transportation arrangements have been made available. If you visit crossover.centralgospel.com, you will be able to take advantage of the busing arrangements that have been made. And so we want to invite you to be a part of the service this evening, and you will be blessed as we enter into 2025, our Jesus year. Thank you.
I don't know where Sweetie Abochi would be going to church tonight, but then you have to be at the ICGC Christ Temple. Sweetie.
That is how we're wrapping up the show this morning. Nana Wachidankwayadob, you did a fantastic job. Thank you all so much. And thank you all for staying with us on the AM show all year round. We promise to serve you better next year, which starts tomorrow. I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I always do this with Benjamin Akakwe, except that he's abandoned me for this week. Nana Wachiadom Dankwa is
all the way from Kumasi, and
absolutely
you in the studio representing the Ashanti region.
Thank you so much. It's bye for now. Mwah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.